I was like, well, it would make sense that they're not betting on me because they don't have anywhere to escape to. Like if they got in a jam, they're cornered, like corner dog type of thing.
What if there was an actual like third world portal that they like you? What if you could follow them
Followers.
and they actually walk into a rock like? The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt.
Should be no surprise to anyone listening to this that back with Hoyt another season. I'm actually going to be shooting the AX2 aluminum this year.
You traitor.
But you're still going RX9.
Yeah, blacked
carbon,
out as always.
Blacked out.
Yeah.
Big surprise for
80
everyone.
pounds. Big surprise. Yeah.
But seriously, man, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Every year it seems like we get a new Hoyt bow in our hands, and they're always a step above the last and just a step above everybody else.
Yeah, they're so consistent, man. Just their processes get better, every year. And we've really been excited about, as we've grown with Hoyt, we've brought some others in with us. And we just feel like the Hoyt family is growing, like the community, and we're really excited about the people that are involved, excited to be a part of that company. And it's really awesome.
So for anyone that's excited about Hoyt like Jared and I are, you can use the code HUNTR, HUNTR, on Hoyt.com.
Get serious, get Hoyt.
And we're back.
Hey-o.
HUNTR Podcast, episode 297. If I do the math right, not many till 300.
Yeah, rolling right in with the new year, I think. Well timed.
Yeah, that sounds right. Maybe as, right around the new year. 300. Wow.
As we continue on.
That's crazy.
Before we get going here, I will thank you guys for tuning in. Whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, those are the main platforms we drop these episodes on. We do that every Tuesday night, and time will correct me if I mess this up here, but I think this is the last or one of the last two a weeker. So we'll start bouncing that back.
Is it Christmas?
One more Thursdays for
this.
Is
Dropping on Christmas? Christmas Day?
I believe it is.
Merry Christmas.
I believe it is. Merry Crisis. Merry Chrysler. So anyways, we'll start backing that off here just a little bit. We will continue with the hunt and eventually into the farm companions. That's just where we're at in the season here. So
looking forward to that, actually.
Yeah, that's coming right up. So if I really threw off my.
Sorry, no, I threw you off, I think.
If you've written us on Instagram DM or the website, those are the two that we check the most frequently.
Good pickup.
We have some HUNTR merch on the website. You guys can check that out. It is too late for Christmas gifts at this point, but whatever. You can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, on any of our partners' websites for a discount in some way, shape, or form. And other than that, here we go.
I'll tag one thing because it is timely. A lot of our partners that you can use that code on are going to be at the Archery and Bow Hunting Super Show.
Yeah.
Here in a couple weeks in Indy.
Yep.
As will we. So that's 2 days open to the public that previously was not. So if you guys aren't doing anything on the 9th and 10th of January,
those are days. Come
on out.
Smooth promo.
I like that.
All right. And with us in studio today, Madison Raber.
How's it going?
Hey!
Welcome on. Back again.
Maybe one of the most frequented guests on A Man of Many Talents, I think, is why it comes up. It's like, hey, we're going to talk about timber today? No, we're not. We're actually going to talk about thermal drone surveys.
Oh, boy. Gonna get some people riled up now.
And probably some timber.
It's probably some timber. Yeah, and everything in between.
I think they go together well.
Yeah.
For starters, did you kill anything this year?
I did. Yeah.
We're still catching up. I know we got 10 minutes here, but.
Yeah.
Well, most of your deer died.
Yeah, well, yeah. If we go back, all my deer died, and then so I basically had one deer left that was mature, and that was on one of my little permission pieces up north.
That's right. I remember the Ohio buck. That was the day or so after you were at our farm.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Found that deer, and in the morning for you guys, and then ran.
Still alive, by the way.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
As far as we know.
I figured you'd kill that deer by now.
No, not yet.
He's held himself back.
Have you?
I've tried twice, I guess.
Gotcha. So yeah, stopped into the house, grabbed some stuff, and headed north, and killed him like, I don't know, 5:30, 6 o'clock. So
yeah,
worked out pretty good.
I saw him last week, and he brought him down to Kentucky, the skull cap.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's a cool deer. I mean, 130-inch 8-point.
Insane
it is
twos and like
zero beam.
Yeah, like not in a disrespect to him, but like
tall, tight one.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know, 15 inches, but he has 12-inch twos, and he's got these little 17-inch beams. They just like have these little hooks.
It's nuts.
Borderline a 6-pointer.
They just like, boop.
It's hilarious.
Like they just
you see him from the side. There's like nothing there. You just see G2s. But he's got 5.5-inch bases, 7-inch brows. I mean, he's a cool deer. I mean, he's really, really old. I'm getting him aged. and the landowner's like, that deer's been there about as long as we have.
Do you want to know and this is not like a comment directed at your deer whatsoever, but in regards to just general the tooth analysis thing?
Jared doesn't believe
Don't feel
it.
No,
I don't think so. No, I'm not saying don't get it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'm really curious. What
I'm just saying
say.
I don't buy it.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
I've seen enough come back that like guys had, and I've sent them in. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's cool. You know, so they're like, oh, it's this, and I would say most times it's probably right. I mean, a majority of time, I would say 50+% of the time, I think it probably is correct.
And those are stress related, right? And
yes.
be able to. So part of me was thinking, this is all the way up close to the lake, up north, and I'm like, maybe get more snow winter.
More stress deposits.
Maybe be able to breed that easier. I don't know.
But I mean, the other thing is like, I think they've put a study out now, like EHD causes stress deposits. So if they get it and survive it, and think about how frequent that is.
Yep.
Well, for instance, the guy that shot Temptation, that 4-year-old early sent the teeth in, came back at 5, and I'm like, there's no way.
No,
it's not possible.
I would agree. No,
yeah,
that thing was too wiry.
Too wiry. I have too much history. I have every year of him. And frankly, if anything, I thought he was the other way.
Yeah, right. No, I could have totally seen that being a mega 3-year-old.
And maybe, I mean, I could be wrong.
Right.
However, it's not just that one. There's been 4 or 5 of those, and I'm like, there's
Well,
no
I think
way.
like the research of like known age doing that, it's like 66% accurate.
Is that what it is?
Really?
Over 2.5 years
I would agree with that.
of age.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Interesting.
So, and then I think it's like 93% within a year. But I mean, obviously, if it's like, let's say it calls it a 4-year-old, well, that means it could have been a 3 or a 5-year-old and still been in that bracket. So there's not many times that you're probably 2 years off. But yeah, 66%.
Well, I mean, honestly, even that to me would be interesting because I mean, we're guessing that deer could be 8+. Like this I've never killed a buck with a body that this deer. I mean, looked like an actual cow. Like it was ridiculous.
Did you weigh him and stuff?
I didn't know. I don't have a scale, and I was really bummed about that. I should have got it done.
We don't do that very often. I mean, we started to like try to make it a purpose in Ohio
as often as I can,
or Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, we weighed my 2 in Illinois.
Yep.
Which is, so here's something that like interesting that can come out of those is that so again, just based off our history and like what we think, that first one I killed, we were pretty confident was a 5-year-old. Yep. We got the shed at 4 years old, and I had some encounters with him and stuff. Good comparison with other. Felt pretty strong he was 4, so I killed him at 5. Field dress, 220,
221,
221, and
stud.
Yep. So, and it's important, obviously, to like have consistency with that. So I weigh them field dressed, and then we can make an assumption about what they were on the hoof. The 11 that I killed, pretty confident he was we'd say at least 6, but probably 6.
Probably 6.
We think he was 6. We thought he was 5 the year before. Again, had encounters with him next to that other, so
looked like a freight train on camera, like when you saw him.
I mean, you sent me that one picture, and I'm like, holy crap, that's a 180.
It
looked monster.
Yeah, so it felt strongly that he was that age, just that we were that.
Yeah.
So when I killed him, that deer field dressed weighed 185.
Isn't that nuts?
So what's the difference? 35 pounds? 36 pounds?
No, 40 pounds.
40 pounds. So, and at a year older. And so the other thing too was, and I think Jeremy probably told you or something, like that deer is sick with something, like had some sort of.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
He had some infection like in his chest cavity. And so whether or not that caused the disparity.
Didn't look sickly from the outside.
No, because I agreed. Like he looked, just build wise, looked like a big old blocky mature buck.
Yeah, right. I would agree. Yep.
Which he, obviously the age was what it was, but like that translated then to a smaller antler score because so he only weighed 185 instead of like I would have expected 235.
Yeah.
Like on the field dress, 230 at least. And so then rather than scoring mid 70s or pushing 80, he scored 167 and change. Which is what it is, but it's just interesting to the weight disparity, and what that means.
Yep. I talked to a guy in Mississippi 2 days ago. Similar situation, killed a really nice 4 or 5-year-old.
For you guys,
that was like 200 pound field dress type deer. They then killed what they had as their target buck as like a 6-year-old, like just absolute brute, and field dress like 171 or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was just like, if you look at all the pictures of this deer by himself, you're like, he's a horse. Yeah. Like that's the king of the forest. Like he's the guy. And then all of a sudden, and it's literally skeletal structure.
Yeah.
Like it has nothing to do with
Right.
fat, has nothing to do with muscle.
Mhm.
They're smaller statured deer.
Yeah, and this deer, I had some pictures of him with like adult does, and it made him look like fawns.
Yeah,
I
just
mean, this deer
towered.
is just huge.
Cool.
Anyways, yeah, I mean, so the landowner had, he picked up sheds. He was used to hunt back in the day, and we combined have what we think are like 3 or 4 years worth of sheds off of that deer.
Cool.
And then I put a video out, and somebody commented like, dude, I got 3 years of history with that buck. So he had some age to him at the very least. I don't know where it's going to come out at, but we're guessing
6 to 8
plus. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
It's wild, man. I mean, there's plenty of them. I mean, we'll talk about it here, but pretty much the target buck I had in Ohio, we saw on our thermal drone survey. And then while we were doing it, I showed Madison the first pictures I've got of him, which is the first year I owned the farm in 2022, I think. And he didn't change.
Yeah,
Like,
he didn't.
He looks exactly the
Yep.
same 4 seasons later.
And
You
that's how
know?
this deer was too. Like every antler is just like, you couldn't differentiate if they're matches or not matches. Like
Yeah.
they all just look the same.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, those are the ones where you're like, I don't know, was he 4 at that point or 5, and now he's 8 or 9? Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to fathom that because you just, especially in a state like Ohio, when we talk about like how hard it is to get deer to 5, let alone 8 or 9.
Yeah.
But I do think some of these deer just slip through the cracks. You'll be interested to know if you didn't see that deer shed half his side yesterday.
No way.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
And I guess we got some pretty extreme weather for this time of year, but that's I've
Not
got-
far from where we saw him on the survey. He walked through with one side off.
interesting. To be honest, I had a little 1.5-year-old the other day come through with one side missing.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's
We had
crazy.
one in Illinois shed too.
Yeah, yesterday morning.
I don't know what he was, but
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, like a full blockhead?
yeah, full.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
blockhead. Never heard him called that.
that was yesterday afternoon.
That's cool.
Crazy. I was like, I might go kill that. Never mind.
I was
Game-
going to ask you if you're going to
game
try to
over.
get on him late season yet. But
Well, that was the one we were scheming. We're
Yeah.
like, boy, that's the recurve buck.
Yeah,
like,
for
just get
sure.
right up in his wheelhouse.
yeah.
I wonder if anybody's ever killed a shed buck and found both the sheds and then just reassembled them.
There's been several posted. It happens in like the northern tier of Pennsylvania a lot, like A&F and stuff. There's been several posted this last week of rifle season. They killed it, and when they walked up, it had
That
shed 'em
happens,
up.
I think, fairly frequently.
Mhm.
Or
I-
guys pull them out, they pop off, pulling
Yeah.
them out or something.
Back in 2022, I had a buck I was chasing. He only came on me late season, and he was a 160-inch 10-pointer and 5 or 6 year old at the time. And this deer, I had a couple encounters with a bow and just couldn't get it done. He was just really tight in there, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna back out. I'm gonna wait for muzzleloader, and then I'm gonna go in and kill this deer. Like he just lived on 5 acres. Like that's just where he was at. And that was towards the end of December, about now.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I had a buck show up that was like fully shed out. I mean, he had a small body on. He was really wore down. And so I'd like, surely that's not him. There's no way. And I go out in there and was putting some more corn out. And I find both sides laying on top of each other just right there.
Wow.
I this close went and just shot the buck anyways because he kept showing up and just
Just
freaking
screw him
slapping
in
on.
there.
I was so
Yeah.
angry at that deer. Ended up getting killed by the neighbor next year as he threw double drop tines as a mid-70s buck. Yeah,
Wow. At how old?
I'm guessing him 6, so I think I was at 5. And he was on there ever since 2 years old. Like not regularly, but it was like a buck that you could keep up with.
It's super interesting to see, like, just from year to year, like what they'll do. I mean, every year, like, I don't know. I've got some that are like that deer that you mentioned. In fact, GR8 is like that. Last year, I found his shed from last year and the year prior on the same walk. So that would have
That's
been it would have been his 5-year-old and 4-year-old shed, and they were, identical.
Identical.
Couldn't tell a difference.
Which is funny because we definitely thought he was bigger last year
Yeah.
and wasn't.
He's just one of them ones that for whatever and even this year he looks big. Like, I don't know, a guy might guess him at mid-50s.
Yeah, I mean, I think I guessed him bigger than what you would, but you're probably more in tune with.
I mean,
what's
I would
going on
assume
there.
he's a small statured deer is why.
I mean, dude, those sheds are pathetic.
Really.
I
yeah.
bet that's what it is. Is like he looks
Like, not impressive at all. It's funny.
because you're like, okay, that's a 6-year-old buck on the hoof.
Oh,
like
yeah, it
that's
looks
a big
like a
deer.
monster.
I bet if you killed him, he's probably $160s, field dressed.
Really?
I would assume
GR8?
so. Mhm.
Wow.
$160? I don't know.
I bet he is.
I don't know. He didn't have the mass, you know.
Because he looks like he's got a substantial frame.
You're
on
right.
him.
I guess, yeah. I would be curious to know.
But he doesn't.
His body weight. He is smart. I mean, so he's no less of a trophy to me, I guess, because of his score. I mean, yeah, sure, I love big antlered deer, but dude, he doesn't come. He's the only deer that is not coming to those feeders.
Really?
And
Interesting.
He's pretty privy on them cameras too.
Yep.
Like he's in there. Like there's no doubt he's living between a handful of them ditches, but he's just like, we don't see him.
Have you tried Bomar's thing of like alfalfa with shell corn?
No, I would like to. It just hasn't happened.
Yeah.
I've
messed around with that some. Works pretty well.
Just kind of so they have to mill through it a little bit more.
I found like late season suckers will lay in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And they'll just literally bed down in the alfalfa and they'll eat and drop some antlers.
Do you have a good alfalfa contact? That's I think where that lies.
That's tough. There was a buddy
Shit's
of mine
pricey
that was,
now.
oh my gosh, yeah. A buddy of mine was getting some for his horse, and it was from out west. It was trucked with a giant 700-pound bale. Yeah,
really?
It was stupid.
I mean, you could get it. You could get it locally. You just,
Yeah.
I think, so I asked a neighbor of ours that farms alfalfa. All hers is spoken for. It goes to a dairy farm. It's like they buy all of it. She said you could go to like an auction
and buy some.
And buy some.
Yeah, I found a guy over by me, about 15 minutes from my place, that you can get like second cuttings bales for like $10-11.
Yeah, I found some. Like some of the local co-ops will have them, and you can just get small bales and things. But like if you want a big round bale, most of those are spoken for.
So I think probably come next year, I will evolve to that. This year was the feeders. So I got feeders out there. That does seem to be making an impact. Just in that I have a lot of consistency on those from 4 and 5 year old bucks, not GR8 though.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've never really ran feeders, so I don't have a ton of experience with that. I mean, I got a little one behind my house, and you always see the bigger deer in the background, kind of checking the does, and that's about it.
See, and those 4 and 5 year old, I mean, every day, broad daylight.
Wow.
Yeah. No issue. Like if you wanted to go shoot. Like Dagger is a mid-50s 4-year-old, no problem. Just set up in a blind and he'll be there.
Yep.
GR8, I just think because he's lived so much of his life without them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Like Flyer will be the next test. So he's 5 and he's at it a lot in daylight. Not a high scoring deer, but like I'll be curious to see if next year he changes his usage.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting.
I think it has been kind of interesting in a couple of phases this year. One, just because I guess I didn't know it until we talked this last time, is that you flew for Uncle Dale's buck the second time, the second Uncle Dale buck, to see, Fly Jared's farm and kind of what that looks like. And then I think the other thing is just, observation plus what we're seeing on thermal drones and cameras is like, it's so weird how I guess maybe our brains are just kind of programmed or wired that it's like, okay, like look at this deer at 3, like he's going to really get bigger at 4. And like, not all of them, like a lot of them don't get much bigger. Like, sure, they add some width or some mass or whatever, but like, look, whether it's a GR8 or Flyer or a lot of these bucks that are in Kentucky on the mountain, like they're not much bigger than they were at 3 or 4.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. And then, cause I do want to get into like the weeds on the drone stuff here. So, I mean, Higgins is the guy you hear talking a lot about, or that I do anyways, about shooting the 3-year-old 8 points.
Did he kill a 3-year-old 8 point?
Something like that.
Was he saying that deer was 3? I saw him he killed an 8 point.
I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't know. He does a lot of like photo for attention kind of thing, and then we'll put a different text with it. So I don't know if the picture was correlated with the text or not.
Gotcha.
I believe it was though. Here's the problem I have with that in Ohio or in areas that are high pressure. Like, if your goal is just to hunt mature deer, yes, I would like for it to be the higher scoring of the set.
Yeah.
Right. But the odds of them getting killed is so high that I'm just like, I need every one of them to have a chance. And even if that deer is like, he makes it to 6 and he's only 130,
it doesn't matter. He's 6.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that methodology works in areas that are super high pressure.
No,
like
I
that.
completely agree with
Where
you
he's at, I agree with him. I'm like, yeah, dude, obviously call him. Like as soon
if
as
there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, yes.
I also though, I mean, dude, I've seen 3-year-old 8-pointers
just out of nowhere explode. I know.
Like, so for example, like that double drop tine 170.
Yeah.
He was a 3-year-old 8-pointer.
Mm-hmm.
The next year he was a 10-pointer.
Mm-hmm.
The next year he was a 160-inch 10-pointer.
Wow.
And then he threw double drops at 6. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't know.
I
That's
mean-
the risk you run with that approach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the way I look at it is maybe it does make a difference on culling deer. I think it's more making space for the better deer, because I think
sure,
so much
definitely.
what happens is
what it is.
some of these better deer are getting pushed out.
Mhm.
And, you know, I do believe if you've got, you know, 100 or 200 acre piece, you know, and it's overrun with a bunch of little 8-pointers, even if it doesn't make a difference culling in the traditional sense, I think making space for the better deer is probably a good idea.
Yeah, because you're not making a genetic impact
Right.
by removing
I don't think anybody
a
thinks so.
3-year-old 8-point, unless you're in a high fence.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's just you're not changing the genetics of the herd. It's not going to make that much input from a space standpoint, for sure. You also better be pretty confident in your aging, right? Because you could kill a giant 2-year-old.
Right. Yep.
You know.
In theory, I like it. In reality, I don't know. Seems like you give them all the space you want. Like, they're just still going to do whatever they
No,
want.
I fully agree.
They're like, oh, I'd rather just eat in that like brickyard over there.
Yeah, and the more searches and surveys I do, the more I'm just like, dude, I don't know anything anymore. It's just like, I mean, they just freaking do what they want to do.
It's true.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we figured that out pretty quick, didn't we?
It's wild, dude. As much as you think you're like lifting the veil on everything, I don't know how to describe kind of what we saw.
Yeah.
Well, let's just because we're on Ohio, we'll start there. So Madison came down the week before gun season to fly the Ohio farm.
You should probably preface this by, is this a service that you offer people, and is this something that you want calls on? Because you're
gonna get them.
Yeah, no, I do. And I'll gladly do it. I recently did a 5,000 acre high fence survey, so you know I've got the team to be able
saw
to
more deer than
to do large scale,
okay,
all the way down to smaller scale, and if you want to get some of your neighbors on board. I've done that as well. So sure, yeah, you can contact me. I don't really have, you can go on my website, treestandforestry.com.
Or DM you on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm not on any socials other than YouTube at this point. I mean, they're there,
Really?
but I don't really answer.
really?
Yeah, I got anxiety, and the more time I spend on social media, the worse it gets.
That might
So-
make people feel better that you haven't wrote them back.
Probably.
They're like, I've been writing Madison for
Trying.
years. Like, he never writes me back.
Yeah, that Instagram DM is a go-to.
Yeah,
I wish
know.
they would do an app that you could respond to Instagram messages without being on the app.
Yeah, like Facebook does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have the business suite.
Yeah, makes it a lot nicer because I'm just in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, but there's a contact me form on my website there. Just do unsure and just put in the text box what you're after, and we can kind of look at it from
There
there.
you go.
So, yep.
So yes, it is a service.
Promo code Hunter for 10%
There you go.
overpriced.
Yeah.
10% comes to us. Yeah.
Sure. Sounds good.
That's funny. So
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. So Madison comes down week before gun season, and I guess I should back up. Like the thought process here was it differs per property, but at least in Ohio was obviously Southeast Ohio got smoked with EHD.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say in the summer at least, I saw most of the bucks I expected to see. Maybe a couple that didn't show, but I also saw some bucks that disappeared on us, right? Which is not uncommon, changing from summer to fall range. But one of those was a homebody 5-year-old who mid-August disappeared, and we never did see him again. Another was a newer 5-year-old that I didn't recognize who wasn't as consistent, but showed up a lot. He disappeared in mid-August, never to be seen again. So there was definitely the thought process that EHD had got my farm because it had been in the area, but we were for sure on the fringe of where it had hit. And also, sometime in early October, a 7 or 8 year old buck that we were just talking about shedding shows up, and I thought he was dead. So it was really weird because everybody that we were talking to, like we had Emily Shad on and some of these other people, they're like smoked.
Yeah.
Like there isn't a deer left in these properties. And I'm like, well, I've got 4 or 5 4-year-olds that I know exist. I've got a 7 or 8 year old. Like, did I get hit? Like, I'm just not sure. So that was kind of the preface of like, I'm at the point of the season that there's really only one mature deer that I would kill. The other 4-year-olds I'm trying to get through. Like, let's just see what it looks like around. Like, there's been huge habitat changes that we talked about here where they had chipped 400 acres around me. Obviously, this was year full of 2 after our cut. So, were these other bucks just spread out across the landscape? Were they married to corn piles, which we have talked about previously? Let's just open the veil and kind of see. So that kind of set the table here for what we saw. I think, frankly, within the first couple minutes, your initial opinion was, I don't think you got hit because we found deer pretty quickly. And not a lot of them, but
did you guys talk about expectations? Like, did you ask them how many do you think we're going to see? And
we talked about that a little bit because I had I'm in Morgan County is where my main farm is. It's just a little piece, but my main drainage is probably 1,500 acres roughly that my farm is in, and so I flew 700 of that, and the density was like 35 deer on that 700 acres. Like it was bad,
which is low for people listening.
Yeah,
because I don't think people know
that was the thing. So I did that was middle of November. Yep, I did. And so the other thing too is, I've had I did a video on my channel on that survey, and I had a lot of people. Isn't that the stated like density per acre, in Ohio, or sorry, per square mile in Ohio, that type of thing. And I think the misconception there is, the state for one is guessing on their deer numbers, and then two, I think they're just dividing that by total acres, right?
Yeah, versus deer habitat size.
Correct. Yeah, you start taking away field, cities, all these areas where deer are not, and suddenly that number, they're way more concentrated. Yeah. So, in my area there, I would have guessed, 80, maybe on the high end, 100 deer on a square mile basis there. Which, I see that. I mean,
including fields and dead space, like using the same.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. And, I would have done a survey last year up in Carroll County, a square 640, and there was 223 deer on that square.
Which is insane.
Oh, that was insane. Like, I've never seen anything like it.
Which is a big, as we kind of get into, like, what are the results of a lot of this stuff, the thing to keep in mind, and we've got Clint coming on this afternoon, so it'll be a good conversation, is a lot of states, I'm not saying Ohio in general,
okay,
but are trying to manage for 20 to 40 deer per square mile. That's the state goal. When you start flying this kind of thing and you think about 20 deer on a 640, it seems barren, like a wasteland.
Oh, yeah, it's like nothing there.
There's like no deer there.
Yep.
So keep that in mind as we're talking through this is, regardless of deer habitat versus open fields versus whatever, a lot of states are looking to manage in that 20 to 40 deer per square mile target zone, which means there's a lot of deer that they want dead.
Seems like a weird way to quantify it. Like, why? Like, they can pretty easily say, like, hey, Ohio is constituted by whatever, 50% open agriculture, 50%, deer space. It seems like they should just like divide the number by 2 or multiply and say, okay,
it's always been density per square mile. That's just the easiest landscape application. There's no breaking down from there.
And granted, that 642 was probably 85% timber, so I mean, it's going to hold more deer. Yeah. But I mean, it anywhere in that range is if you're 80 plus, I think that's where people start seeing a lot of deer and you're having a good experience.
Okay, I was gonna say, is that what you've seen? Like, do you see a higher population in timbered areas versus open areas, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say as a whole, there might be some pockets down where I'm at in like Caldwell, for example. A lot of big timbered areas there. The numbers there aren't crazy. I mean, there's pockets with good deer numbers, but I would say like west of you, like towards Carroll County, those timbered areas have just wild deer numbers. Down where I'm at, I always felt like where my farm was at there was a healthy number. Like, I mean, it didn't feel overpopulated at all to me. But we also didn't go out. I didn't see 20 deer piling into my 3-acre bean field. Like, I never saw that.
Right.
It was like you'd see 5 or 6.
And so flying that ditch, obviously, here post-EHD, it felt barren.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was doing some, summer flying some of the bean fields and stuff. And, we would go up in a field and see 30, 40 deer in one field. Yeah.
Can I ask this too, just for preface? What's the legality around flying other people's farms?
I don't like it, but there is no. I mean, it's like
There is
public
none.
airspace.
There's no trespassing.
Interesting.
I mean, I think obviously the DNR and there's nothing they could do about that side of things, even if they would regulate the drones and stuff. But
That's Ohio specifically. Like they have language, or
I think it's most states. Like there is designated
federally
state or
regulated.
the
I think it's FAA.
yeah.
Okay.
Regulated. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just curious.
Now, I mean, that being said, I'm not going, if I know I've got, a neighbor that, is just like, hey, I don't want you doing that. Like, I'm going to respect that.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
like, we're not going to be, flying over people's houses and stuff like that. I mean,
Sure.
that's just common sense. So
Yeah, it's kind of like in a weird way, I relate it to like spotlighting in Pennsylvania. Like, there's no legality against me spotlighting your private field, but like
Trigger off when houses are coming.
you don't shine a house, right? Yeah, same kind of thing. You don't shine a house. You
the old up and over, yeah.
Yeah. So, and there is like, from a real estate perspective, we know there is like a space that is owned above the properties, but it's only like, I forget how many stories it is. It's not very high.
Okay.
So once you get, I think 100 feet up or whatever, it's open ground.
yeah,
basically.
we're flying at the ceiling for, the drones is like 400 foot. But that's above ground. So, for example, if you're down on the bottom and you're flying up on a ridge, it's above the ridge, not from where you're taking off at, if it makes sense.
Okay.
Cool.
Yep.
So
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Predator Camo.
Man, this one feels good, right? I know
does
people
feel
have been
good.
looking at this picture over your shoulder for a while now. I think that was 2018, but we just, over the last, how many years, keep coming back to Predator Camo because it's been so damn good for us.
No doubt. I think we bought our first set off of Jen at the Archer Trade Show almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And Jen's still with the company, and the patterns have only improved since then. They actually were recently acquired within the past couple of years. We've had a chance this past year to go and meet with new ownership, talk about redesigning a lot of the old lines, plans for new patterns, all of the above. So really excited about what's to come, not only this coming year, but in years to come. There's a lot of good stuff coming from Predator.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, it's always been going back to that breakup pattern, right? That's the historic look, whether you're talking about the spring greens or brown deceptions or fall grays.
Yeah.
I mean, that breakup is really what's been so powerful for us in a tree stand. And right now, they're letting anyone use the code HUNTR on the Predator Camo website and get 20% off any of the lines, including all the new stuff that dropped here in July.
Be the Predator.
So anyways, yeah, I guess I don't know. Expectations were maybe not from a population level as much as it was, hey, I know these 4 decent bucks are using my farm. Not saying they're going to be on it, but I expect us to see these 4 bucks on camera around the farm. And frankly, for a while there, it was kind of like, okay, this is weird. Like, we haven't found them. Like, they're not where I thought they would be from a bedding standpoint. They're not in the areas that I thought they would be just from a core area standpoint. It took almost to the end of the property survey till we found one of them was a 4-year-old 10-point and the other one was a 7 or 8-year-old 8-point. And they weren't very far from each other. And it was
maybe 100 yards, maybe.
It was like 12:30, and they're just up like the 10 was with a doe, and the older buck was just kind of
working that way.
Yeah, milling around, working a ridge essentially. And so it was like, okay, not uncommon for them to be over there, but just when you finally see them like doing their thing, just like naturally, you're like, that's weird. It's 12:30 and they're just covering ground, like moving around, doing things. But I think as we got away from the property, that's where, I don't know if it was necessarily like disappointment, but more like, whoa, there was nothing. Like we quickly are like, this area definitely got hit with the HD. Maybe not as slammed as some of these other places, but when we're starting to think of like, where are these other 3, 4, 5-year-old bucks? They didn't exist. They weren't there, and doesn't mean that they're not just a property over from where we're looking, but they definitely weren't close or what it seemed like to be close. So the question essentially came into of like, are they dead or are they moving just way further than we thought? And I don't really know if we have still a good answer for that, because one of those bucks ended up showing up
what, 3 days later?
3 days later is the biggest 4-year-old. And it's like, where the hell was he at?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I mean, we surveyed a good chunk of land there and did not see him. But he clearly was not that far away that he showed up 3 days later.
What did we do that day? Was it like 2 square miles?
Yeah, probably 1,200 acres or so.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah.
I mean, what's your degree of confidence in terms of like the percentage that you're able to see?
That can vary by day and by
It might have changed after he was in Kentucky.
So that particular day, you know, we were kind of limited on just being able to make things work as far as our schedules.
Yeah, the weather.
And so the weather was a little bit, you know, we had a nice haze, which helped, but the thermal conditions were not optimal by any means.
It was still sunny.
Yep. So on some of those, you know, what would have been, I guess, southwest facing banks, were a little bit blown out as far as the thermal. But, you know, I was still picking up deer in them and seeing them. So, you know, on something like that, I felt 95% confident on that. And then there's also...
I like 90.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah, okay. And then there was a couple blocks of really dense, what was
Cedars,
pines,
yeah.
whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, we did find a couple deer on the edges of that. There is a small chance, you know, you could have had a buck buried up in there, and there's no way I would have been able to tell.
There's no way with overhead obstruction that thermal's going to pick up on it, right? Like if they're under a cliff, for instance, or like some sort of...
Yeah.
And as he was moving, like especially around those cedar patches and stuff, it'd be like you're rotating around, and then it's like, oh wait, something's there.
Yeah.
You know, but it's so buried in there that it's like maybe it's a deer, maybe it's a doe. You can know it's a deer. It's just you can't.
There's
see.
methods of combing through some of that stuff to get a glimpse of the thermal image. Getting a read on if that head happens to be in the opening to be able to see what it is pretty tough. So, you know, there are limitations to the technology.
Sure.
But, you know, I feel pretty good about,
like you said, some variability too, depending on I would add to that the terrain type too. You know what I mean? So condition for sure, but also terrain type. If there's more overhead obstruction that these deer are underneath,
right.
That's going to make it tough.
Yeah.
And this one I don't think was too bad, the Ohio one. Definitely more just terrain than like your farm in Carroll County.
Right.
You know, more ditches and things like that. But I mean, overall, I think we captured the majority of deer in that area. So, for instance, that big 4-year-old, I assume, was just outside of the area. That's the only thing that I could think of is he was, you know, a couple properties over, and 3 days later he moved in there, which is not uncommon of his behavior of what he does. One of the bucks, 4-year-old 8-point, still has not shown up, so I assume he's dead. He got shot.
Yeah, and so, you know, I feel fairly good about that because, you know, with the 3 days like that, I mean, we're seeing deer cover ground way more than what I thought they do, like way more. And so, you know, for a deer to be outside of that block and you know, and we're basically using roads and different, you know, obstructions to try to create a block that we're flying. And so it could have been, you know, he could have been theoretically right across the road and I wouldn't have seen him. So, you know, we're trying to, you know, we're not just flying all of Meigs County, so
no,
you know, we're definitely going to miss some, you know, possibilities where they're right on the edge like that. But
so yeah, I mean, like we did, and I don't know, you can say if this is kind of normal or not. Like we methodically flew the boundaries of my property, which down there was 230 acres, and then once that was accomplished, it's like, all right, cool, let's just see what's around the area, right? And so that's where we expand the search, and not in like a, you know, transect type of way, more of like we're just gonna fly and just cover.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a little bit method to the madness, but it's way less, you know. And I'm not trying to, I'm trying to find every deer I can, but you know, there's definitely more of a chance that I would have missed something outside of your block because I just didn't take the amount of time. Because if you're looking at covering 230, you know, we can cover that very methodically. Once you start expanding out to another 1,000 acres on top of that, and given the time constraints that we had, you know, you got to keep covering ground. So. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think like from a result standpoint, the interesting things were, I can't remember exactly. It was, I want to say we saw 60 some deer, 63 deer. Is that right? In Ohio?
Yeah, that sounds right. Cause I think we would figured 54 deer on a square mile.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think the first interesting thing, and I'll use round numbers, is damn near 80% of the deer in that 1,200 acres were on my 200 acres.
Yeah, it was wild.
Like,
double the density
inside
per square.
Yeah.
acre on yours.
And
It
at
was-
that
it was
point,
wild.
a couple like assumptions is number one, I hadn't been feeding corn or doing any kind of feeding. So it was purely browse and destroyed food plots basically because of the drought. Pressure, maybe, was a thing, but we did this before gun season for a reason, right? We wanted to just kind of see what was happening prior to going into the gun season. I think a lot of it was probably the timber cut.
I would agree.
Because the outside area, there obviously, like I said, there's that one giant section that had been chipped, but that's not great habitat. In fact, we saw
one deer in that,
one deer,
which we didn't find nearly all of it, but like the main section up close to your farm, there was one deer.
One deer in it, and so the browse and the cover, like they married themselves to the farm. We didn't see a deer over 2.5 that we know of outside of my property. All of the bucks that were 2.5 plus were inside the boundaries. Not meaning that again, this is a snapshot in time. We should emphasize that, just like any survey.
Sure. What do you have as far as a read on EHD, like recovered deer in the area? Like, did you find any deer on your property? Did neighbors find any deer?
No.
Really?
That was the kind of shocking piece. And again, I think those big timber areas are tougher just because, like, I don't think guys are just walking around. Like, we talk a lot about just, like, navigating to those water areas because we're like, oh, that's where we're going to find them. But you and I talked, you were finding dead deer
up on ridges,
all over the damn place, right?
I would say generally speaking, lower.
Yep.
But something that, like, one of my better deer, actually have him out in the truck, was going to bring him in, I forgot. That deer I found, he was like up on a bench right above a creek. So it's like you're walking the drainage, I'm finding does, and just like I ended up finding actually that deer with the thermal drone because I assumed all these deer were dead. So I started, and I timed it perfectly to where, or it got lucky, and they throw off a crazy amount of heat when the maggots start eating on them.
Oh, interesting.
And it just looks like this just glow.
Wow.
And so you can actually see through the canopy a little bit. That was in August, I think, or something.
Yeah.
And so I found some of these deer prior,
And just
went and got a salvage tag and went and picked them up this winter. So
I mean, obviously the bodies would give you some added confidence to say, yeah, there definitely was like some.
I mean, that's
here's your evidence
for.
of EHD other than lack of deer we're seeing from the survey. I would agree, though. I mean, if we had to make an educated guess, it seems like your whole area probably got hit with EHD, including your farm. Because habitat type is not going to protect. Well, you can get into the oil thing. You know what I mean?
I've had a lot of people reach out just because in mentioning, like, we've talked about it and stuff, and like I'm not going to be the guy that's like, this is the magic solution. It worked. I don't know.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting in terms of what I have and what I've seen on my place versus the surrounding area.
So we can talk about preventative measures, but for now, let's just say your whole area got hit equally, like across,
And we are at, like, I'll give, and maybe Clint's a big part of this. So Ohio DNR has it reported by township.
Okay.
So down to the county level, down to the township level. And I want to say my township only had 13 deer reported this year, and this was as of when we flew it. And even last year, there were 8 reported.
Okay.
So some, but not many. And I say that in contrary to a lot of the area that was smoked, we're talking 200, 300 plus reported.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're on the edge of.
I'm curious where I should check up my township. I'm curious what that would have been.
We're on the edge of, like, it definitely happened. There were definitely reports again. So that means people are finding bodies, but I would say lighter than the core.
That's interesting. I guess that's kind of in the face of what we're seeing on the property surrounding yours. But like, to finish that sentiment, what it seems like is that your area got hit in some way, shape,
In
or
some
form.
capacity, yep.
And post that, I would assume your habitat is what drew most of those remaining deer into your area at the specific time that the survey was taken.
So
is what I would assume.
Yeah.
So as of right now, my township had 18 deer total reported in 2025. As compared to 6 in 2024. So definitely higher. If I go a township over, they had no deer reported last year and 67 reported this year.
Wow.
So 5 times as many deer reported in that one. If I go over even further, 175 reported in the next township over.
Dang. Yeah, so you were
as
right
I'm
on that
getting
edge.
closer to the Ohio River, right? I'm further from the Ohio River. You don't have to tell me your township, but there's Morgan County. Just click on it, and you can tell me where you.
61.
There you go. So.
Yep, so more than you. And I would, flying years, yeah, it definitely felt, because, as a whole, what I'm seeing is the areas that I've flown that I have been hit, it's the more mature deer that are, suffering. I mean, there's still, on mine, I've got, on those 35 deer, there were
so there's
6-7 bucks.
There's 2 townships over from me and Meg's.
Oh my gosh.
What's that number?
That's 393.
393.
That's wild.
So that's the isolation of the disease too, right? Like even within that township, which I won't mention because if anybody has a property there, they're probably crying. Like, one farm could be smoked, the next farm might not. So as you saw that gradual, like as you got closer to the Ohio River, smoke city. Mm-hmm. As you got further from the Ohio River, not as bad.
Yeah.
So yes, to your point, I think we absolutely had EHD in that area. I think the 2 5-year-olds that I had in August probably died from it. Mm-hmm. And think about, a lot of people are like, man, it really targets the mature bucks. Think about this in that August timeframe, especially even late July, because we did have it earlier. Those 4, 5, 6-year-old bucks are grouped up.
Right.
Meaning if the disease hits one of them, it hits them all.
Well, I've heard some theories too about like the velvet in their antlers, like it's carrying blood.
For sure.
They've got way more surface.
It's just another blood feeding area for these.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
But what was weird was like my farm in Morgan, and there was 6 bucks out of 35, and of those 6 bucks, 2 2-year-olds and a 3-year-old maybe left.
Yeah.
And then interestingly, I flew another buddy's on the other end of the county, and on his, he was hit worse. We flew 500 acres, and I think I found 16, 17 deer. And alive. And 4 bucks, and 3 of them were like shooters.
Wow.
The one was a mid-60s deer. The other one's like pushing 150-inch 8-point. The other one's a 3-year-old, but like a 140-inch 3-year-old. Like,
yeah, and I
was like, what is going on here?
That's the pocketed
really
approach.
Weird.
I think is like and I hate using the term like luck of the draw, but it really is. It's like if you had, so I would assume, and it was like if I go back in camera, the 2 5-year-olds that I presumably lost hung out together all the time. And so when they both disappear, like they probably both got EHD, they both probably died. Would be my guess.
Would it be fair to say like there's way fewer of them, so like it might seem like they get hit harder, but they're just a much smaller pool. So maybe it hits evenly across the whole distribution, but there's just only 2 or 3 of them to begin with.
Yes and no. I think you're absolutely right in terms of the number. I think it's just location and behavior too, because on the flip side, I went into the season knowing of 3 distinct 4-year-olds. All 3 of them were alive throughout the whole season. Mm-hmm. They didn't die. They didn't get hit. And they hung out together. So, and they were bedding in an area that was not the same area that those 5-year-olds were going to. So maybe there were midge pockets where those 5-year-olds were living, and maybe where the 4-year-olds were living, there weren't midge pockets. And and again, I don't think by planning or anything. It's just that was the luck of the draw.
Just happened. Yeah.
Just happened. So. Yeah, for sure. If you see these 5-year-olds start to disappear off the landscape, there's fewer of them. Therefore, I'm like, whoa, paying attention, right? It's noticeable. But when you're talking about specific bucks along the edge, the one thing I have seen, and it's not like huge discrepancies, but more than I would think is like I have a lot of 1-year-olds, as you would all think, right? That's the number 1 buck on the landscape from a numbers standpoint. I have a decent amount of 2-year-olds, nothing like crazy. But then at 3, there's a gap. There's like there's actually more 4-year-olds than 3-year-olds, in my opinion, of what I'm seeing on the farm. There's no 5-year-olds that I know of. Really, there's probably no 6-year-olds that I know of. And then there's a 7 and 8-year-old. So you see these like
I've got a theory on that.
Go ahead.
I think it's like, I think there's a social component to certain age classes of bucks being displaced.
Okay.
I think like in Illinois, I think we've seen it pretty distinctly to where we see gaps in 4-year-olds. I think it's like we have 1, 2, and 3-year-olds. See, and I think it's slightly higher than where we're at in Ohio. I just think there's a slightly by 1 year even, age gap in like what's the dominant.
Yep.
Where's the level of dominance at?
Because of just the how the hunting structure affects the age structure.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So for us in Illinois, it's 5, 6.
Yep.
In Ohio, it's 4,
4,
5.
5.
And so the year prior to that of the maturity seems to be the ones that are that get displaced the most.
Yeah.
For better and worse. Like, so in Illinois, I think it seems like we see less 4-year-olds than we see 3-year-olds or 5 and 6-year-olds. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. And then in Ohio, like you're saying, we see more 1 and 2-year-olds than and 4 and 5-year-olds than we see 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Well, it seems like
it might vary even on a farm to farm basis, but I think that those, like in Illinois, I don't think those 5 and 6-year-olds will tolerate a 4-year-old as much as they'll tolerate a 2 and 3-year-old.
I agree.
So I think that's why we see them running all over, trying to like make their presence.
They're trying
known.
to find a void.
They're trying to find a place.
Yeah.
Right.
And they also, it seems like they show up. Like when we have deer show up randomly, I'm like, where did this 4-year-old come from? It's like we'll get a new 4-year-olds.
Interesting. Yeah, I would usually pick up 3-year-olds.
That's what I think. I think it's a social dynamic.
It's an interesting thing, and so to go at the highest level of this, because drones are obviously probably the most hot button topic I would say in whitetail stuff, besides like CWD and state management and things. Is like this discussion is why I wanted to do it. Right? Because like there's a ton of assumptions we make off of hunting. There's a ton of assumptions we make off of trail cameras. Like this is just another piece of the puzzle of like, okay, in a time snapshot in this area during this day, here's what we saw. Here's how they were distributed. And now, okay, combine that with what you see on camera 3 days later, the biggest 4-year-old, there he is. He's not dead. He's still alive. That other 4-year-old that was an absolute homebody never showed back up. I assume is now he's dead. Yeah. So like you start to put these pieces together, there always will be questions. So like these 5-year-olds, until I walk somewhere, like I don't know, maybe they are still alive, probably dead. Maybe they got poached. That's a big thing down there too. So like there's that to have at it. I don't think so. I would lean on the fact that they probably died from EHD. That's just me based on the timing that they disappeared, their consistency, and what happened.
That's right when mine were dropping like flies. So
on the flip side, you and I looked at that late September picture of that absolute freak that was on the north side of my property. One picture. Okay. Very possible that deer's just doing a weird loop. You would think with the drones though, all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I can see all of this. Maybe we find out nowhere to be found. Yeah. Never saw him again. Could be dead. Could have been shot in archery season. That's the downfall of the later surveys. But also like, who knows? Right. And so it's just it's a really cool thing as a snapshot in time. Easily from what we saw, those 2 bucks up on their feet at 12:30. Boy, I saw the temptation of abuse. Of like, hey, there they are. I know where they're probably going. I could get out ahead of them and kill them. I could have killed them that night for sure. So I get that aspect of it.
For sure, strong, but yeah.
Yeah. You could have been in this position to kill them.
Yeah. But my fingers and they're dead.
Yeah. Some people probably think of it that way. But
with a gun, you might be right. But
yeah, but at the same time, it's like, it's just purely a time snapshot of what's in that area at that time. Maybe one of those bucks would have maybe that 4-year-old, that big one, just was out with a doe somewhere else. It was late November. And 3 days later, he would have been seen on a neighbor's property consistently. Yep. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, zoom it out. I mean, okay, I think we got a fairly good idea of what Jeremy's Ohio farm looked like. There was, you'd call it a reasonable density on your farm.
Yep.
And the surrounding was surprisingly low density.
Correct.
Right? And so we theorized that, okay, maybe there was some EHD, maybe your habitat has something to do with it. So that's what that is. What were your takeaways from that, Madison? Were you surprised by those findings? And then like how do they compare to what you call comparable properties? Like, did you fly other farms in the area, like in that county? in a similar time frame.
Well, and I
Not
guess even
megs, no. I
even
would've-
think about your tracking, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not a survey per se, but
Mhm. Oh,
you're seeing.
yeah.
Fine.
No, I mean, it felt maybe slightly lower, not significant. I think it was just, it felt like there weren't as many bucks as there should be on the landscape. Like the does didn't feel like there was significantly less does than
I thought there
should
was
be.
way more does than I expected.
I think that property is going to bounce back really. Within a year or two, I don't think you're even going to notice anything on that. With the amount of deer left. On as far as the displace where the deer were at, I thought was interesting. Not so much on what ridge, but like with them being so double the amount on his property. Obviously, I think the habitat that that the work that we did on that made a big difference. But I also look at what's around it. So you have a giant clear cut, then you have giant open hardwoods, that's state ground, and then you have another cut that was below you, but it was extremely aggressive. Not a clear cut, but it was a very aggressive cut. And that one just didn't have time to really bounce back yet on the regen, and so it was really wide open. There's tops and stuff, but not much for the deer to. There weren't,
not browse
no
and
deer
undercover.
Yeah, there wasn't anything there.
Surprisingly, because you would think like that was basically a clear cut, like they
Yep.
should be in there.
Yeah.
They weren't.
Yep. And so I mean, I just thought it was interesting. I don't know that it really gives you much to work with on that, other than selective harvest. At least in the short term is better.
Yeah, because
potentially.
we're in, like I said, year 2, moving into year 3 here.
But that could all change in 3 and 4 years. We don't know. I mean, you saw on your Kentucky farm, that clear cut, that was pretty old clear cut.
5 or 6
Yep.
at least.
And the deer were in that, but at the same time, there wasn't any better habitat around it either. So
Was there anything like notable as far as like specific locations on Jeremy's farm that they were bedding? You're like, oh yeah, like the bucks seem to be on ridges, or
what was the wind that day? Was it a west or
It
a
was
south?
a south.
A south.
Mm-hmm. I think that front overgrown pasture behind the cabin held a decent amount of deer, and that wind was like in their face.
Yeah. So there, I've seen the areas that I've flown multiple times. It feels like there's areas that there are always deer bedded, and I would tend to say those are more so doe bedding areas. But the buck bedding I find is very wind dependent in Southern Ohio. Definitely using the leeward side.
Really?
Like I can, because I killed so early. If I'm in the area, which I'm not often, but if I'm in the area, I'll swing by and see, how many deer are left on my property. If there's new deer that have moved in, and I can at this point, I know where the deer can be bedded based off the wind.
Okay.
And they're very predictable on that front.
Interesting.
And so I think the bucks, and I mean to a degree as well, even the does shift around some, but the does seem to be much more consistent. When we were doing the timber work actively on your farm, I would have taken the drone up for some B-roll shots and stuff, and so then I'll turn the thermal on, and consistently there was always deer bedded over there.
Yeah, on that point and stuff.
Regardless of wind.
Yeah.
So
I think the other thing we talked about, and we didn't really see it on my place just because we did so much timber work, but through your observations, we would always say, well, those bucks are going to be bedded down in this thick, gnarly stuff. And you always say, you just see bucks laying in like open hardwood. They're just like bedded on a ridge, and maybe it's wind dependent, but it's just, they're laying in like open woods.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, I've seen that a lot. Like I had a buddy of mine that I flew his 80 or 90 or whatever it was, and had a huge area of a lot of invasives, like honeysuckle, nasty stuff. Almost impenetrable. But, the type of stuff you look at it, like there could be deer bedded in here, and take the drone up. I think there was one fawn bedded in that stuff, and all the deer, including all the bucks, were bedded out in wide open hardwoods, nothing touched. And so I find that, especially the bucks, they prefer, they're very visual, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think they use that more than what people think.
I agree.
And so, I've started utilizing that more so even when I'm designing timber cuts, because I don't want to just create. I'm not a fan of a 50-acre clear cut in the center of your 200. I would much prefer having smaller, condensed pockets where, I find bucks bedding up against that or on the edges of that. My piece was harvested prior to me having control over how it was cut, and essentially borderline a 50-acre clear cut. Not really, but it feels like that walking through it. And a lot of the bucks I find, except for late season, bedded on the edges.
Yeah.
Late season, I've got 3 acres of standing beans. They bed right in the middle of that stuff, and they'll work out. So
that's the challenge, man, of like especially late season, that visual component. Like, dude,
Oh,
my farm goes like, and I assume most farms are this way, but they feel pretty big. Like in September, you're like, oh, yeah, it could be anywhere. And then, but by this hunt I did the other day, I'm like
there's
if I pull my truck through that intersection a quarter mile out there, like they can see you literally.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what you do. But.
I do think one, just like general observation, and I even talked to Kevin and Finn about this after we did the survey, who have hunted the property, is like, we don't see a pile of does when we hunt that property. Like, just, you have a pocket of 2 or 3 come out here or there. There were a pile of does and fawns that we surveyed. I mean, to the point where even with EHD, Madison and I talked, I'm like, I could easily come and shoot some does here and it like wouldn't affect anything.
Right.
When we were down there, actually when we were out and then when Madison left, I went and put, I forget, it was right before gun season. So I put 700 pounds of corn out in 3 or 4 places. The amount of deer sightings that then increased on my cameras right after that, like through the roof. In fact, whether it's the deer that we saw and or it sucked more deer in at that point, I don't know. I mean, obviously that 4-year-old showed up out of nowhere, but that's that time thing is like, if you went and flew it while that corn was on the ground, like whatever the next week, you may have seen 90 deer. I don't know. Like,
was that 4-year-old, did he show up in gun season?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
And after gun season.
You would assume that was probably pressure related.
Yeah, I would think so. Just because of what's around the area and stuff. There is a lot of non-pressure to my west from a gun season, but there's a lot of pressure to the east. So I would assume so. It also could have been just, again, I hadn't fed corn there for 2 months, and then all of a sudden I dropped 700 pounds on the ground. Like, they marry themselves to those corn piles. What I'm getting at is like there was clearly, at least observationally from my side, an artificial increase in the amount of deer the moment I put corn on the ground there.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, common sense, right?
Yeah, I'm seeing that on my farm right now as well. Like, I've got a ton of standing beans, brassicas, cloves. I mean, I got so much food on my farm, and, wasn't running 3 or 4 cameras on 50 acres, and a couple pictures here and there, and you throw a pile of corn out, and it's just like, oh, there they all are.
Yeah, just boom.
Really?
Yep.
Well, and do you think? What do you trip? I mean, those deer are there. You're just saying, I'm getting pictures out
exactly.
of them.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying too. Is like, even from the hunting side, it's like, I think we did 7 or 8 days that we hunted that property, and like, I would say we didn't see a ton of does on that property, but obviously per the survey, they're all there. They exist.
I think that the cameras are like, I'm trying to like
very ineffective.
Wrap my mind around the whole season. Well, I think they can be very effective if, on specific deer on like targeted locations. So like, targeting a buck on some scrapes in October, I think it can be highly effective.
Yep.
But, contrast that throughout the month of November, I think that it wanes, like it becomes less and less effective. To now, the exception being like a plot watcher or like a 360 type camera, which just gives you a general sense of there's a lot of deer in this field kind of a thing. Those hunts I did the other day were a great example of, so I hunted a blind on a pinch point between a feeder and a 6-acre bean field. And I had cameras on the pinch, and I had a camera on the feeder. And, I might have had pictures of 4 or 5 deer that went to the feeder, and then most of those ran through the gap. I got pictures of those too. I didn't get pictures of the 25 or 30 deer that just didn't go anywhere near any of that stuff, and they just went into the feeder.
Yep.
Doves, fawns, bucks, like there didn't seem to be any kind of like discrepancy based on who got pictures and who didn't.
Yep.
It was just, in fact, one of the ones at the feeder and that came through the gap was the best 3-year-old there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think at least from an Ohio side, that's kind of the summary. I mean, the cool thing is as of even today, as we talk, like there's 2 or 3 really good 4-year-olds that are still alive. That big 7-year-old shed, good chance he makes it, and so it will accomplish what I wanted to accomplish next year, which is there should be 2 to 4 5-year-old plus deer on that property, which frankly there were. This year, there were 3 of them going into the season. It's just I think 2 of them died from EHD.
Right.
Man, we just need a year where like we don't.
I know, man.
Right?
I know.
It's been the past 2 years. I think everybody's got hit.
Well, and
in some way.
that's kind of the predicament when we talk about selling that place is like, this was the year, not this year, but next year is the year that I've been waiting for to get these better quality deer 2.5. And 2 of them should be 50 plus. One of them should be 60 plus, and so it's like, that's the year I've been waiting for. But
at some point, if you're going to sell it, you got to sell it.
It's
you
not
can feel
a deer
good about
thing.
selling somebody a farm with great deer on it too.
Well, yeah, it's not a deer thing at all. It's a time thing. Yeah. Like I sat 2 sits all year on that farm this year, and it wasn't EHD or it was just purely the way that the schedules and times worked out of where we're hunting. So if I sell it, it's because of that, nothing else. So, and obviously we got a full survey to sell with it.
There you go.
I'll tell you. So, I think so I think we came out of that of like, okay, expected what we expected.
I think it was pretty on par with what we kind of thought. Maybe a touch better.
Kentucky,
in some ways.
Kentucky was the loop, right? Because it was like I went into that of like, it's low deer densities. There's not many deer in these farms, either of these farms. Confusing for the farm property that has all this food. Not as confusing for the mountain property because it's mountains. There's no timber work. They're just there, But what was confusing going into it is the mountain property had 5 bucks that were, I think one of them's a 4-year-old. The other ones are 5 or 6 or older that were there pretty consistently. And the farm property, like we talked this morning, I think, during our hunt companion, was that post-September, it's void. Like they disappear except for this ancient buck that just like won't ever die. So now it's like, okay, well, I have all this food and that property is way better. I assume the deer are just around. They're just using different things. That was at least it seems like that was an EHD hit farm.
Oh yeah.
My actual farm in Kentucky. Because we didn't see shit for deer.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by DeerGro.
Man, hard to believe, but DeerGro has been the sponsor that's been there since the beginning of the HUNTR Podcast. Back in 2021, I think that they were the only partner that we had, but it's such a cornerstone brand and set of products for our food plot strategy throughout the year.
No doubt. And it seems like we used to have an off season, but not so much anymore. It's like when the hunting season ends, it really rolls right into food plot season, habitat projects, all of the above. And the Plot Start and Plot Boost have been there since the very beginning. That's a cornerstone for all of our plots. The Plot Start goes on at the beginning, Plot Boost goes on midway through. And since they came out with all of the fertilizers, that gets mixed in with the Plot Boost application as well. And I can't believe the results that we've been getting out of that.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Like I said, it's all the work now that really produces the results in the fall. So right now, anyone listening to HUNTR Podcast can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for 15% off any of the products at DeerGro.com.
Better food plots, bigger deer. Well, to your comment about we assume it's EHD on the Kentucky farm, I don't know if we can say that because...
We can. Yeah, again, that's why I'm saying assumed at this point.
Well, you just don't have a prior record.
Well, so I have a really good relationship with the warden there.
Of a live deer, is what I mean. Like,
what do you mean?
So I would say to make a conclusion, even that there's way less deer like than there had been even. Like we don't know
in Kentucky?
That. Yeah.
Well, let me back up. So this is the 3rd year that I've had this farm. I think I've had 4 years of monitoring during season, but I've owned it for 3 years. Last summer would have been the best depiction of, I would say, quality of up and coming bucks. I had a really, really good 3.5-year-old age class. And I had 1 5-year-old in that group, which was a great deer. In fact, I almost killed him opening weekend last year on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Going into this year, and purely from a numbers standpoint, I should say, when I bought that farm, when I had it during season the first year, and even the first summer, I mean, we're talking under 10 bucks total, like 1-year-olds included, not many. Last year, I think I had 18 or 19. And this year, I think I had, and this is August, early September, 25 plus. So, I mean, clearly have, and that's, I wouldn't say necessarily as much the habitat and food work that I'm doing as much as it is I'm just keeping people off, because I think it had just been hunted extremely hard in the area, to the point where the neighbors are like, hey, we're seeing so many more bucks since you've bought this property.
Sorry, when was your most recent observation? Was that this past year?
This summer, yeah. I mean, I showed you that picture of that back food plot. There were 11 bucks in there in September, just doing things.
And I don't know if you can make that assessment until that time next year.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Because I think that like farms are that way. You know, mine has done that at certain years in the past, where it's like August, September, it's like it's the best farm in the state.
Yep.
And then it's like November rolls around and it's like, this is the worst farm in the state.
Well, and so that goes to like what we were thinking for this survey is like, I'm not arguing the fact that the deer just use this as a summer food source, essentially, or summer farm. Come season, with thousands of acres of hardwoods around and acorns falling, they just disperse, right? And to this point, I very well might be that. I just expected then to be like, oh, well, there he is, there he is. So we flew 2,700 acres.
Huge area.
Wow.
Around the farm.
Wow.
Giant area.
A lot of national forest is what a lot of that is.
Yeah, and private neighbors and stuff. And most of my neighbors are cool. I've got two really cool neighbors next door that both own 300. So between us, we have 900 acres. Okay. One's an old cattle pasture farm. He's still active. And then the other one is just more like, it's more timber and some pasture ground type of thing. Hayfield. He's got some horses and stuff. We didn't see any of the bucks that I expected to see anywhere. Like, none. In fact, on my entire 275 acres, 14. Is that the number we had?
Yeah, and that was double the density of anything else around it.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
We have 14 deer. And I mean, dude, I'm talking, I've got 8+ acres of standing beans. Like I told Madison, I said, dude, when you fly this farm and you look down, you'll be like, this is an awesome farm. Looks great.
Oh, it looks awesome, yeah.
And maybe, because I've afterwards I talked to the warden and I was like, hey, dude, here's what we found. And he's like, it sounds crazy. He's like, I do think that these deer migrate miles. Like throughout, not like just in a one, like a, high country down type of thing that you would see out west, but like when those acorns start falling, the bachelor groups break up, and then the pre-rut and rut activity starts, these deer just move miles. And he's like, it wouldn't surprise me. He's like, because I've seen it on my own cameras, that if you made contact with somebody down over that hill, back towards the main road, towards my other property, that they have several of the bucks that you had on your property in the summertime. And it's miles away. Yeah. Just because of what's there. It is primarily national forest type ground, is very big open hardwoods. There was one small timber cut near the farm, but we didn't see hardly anything in it. It was up near the road. They just were like scattered, no rhyme or reason across the landscape.
Have you done any research on if there's been any collar studies in that part of Kentucky, like ever?
No, there's nothing.
Very interesting.
Nothing. Yeah. It's just, so if I back up on the history of this area, and people know I've said, I'm in Menifee County, right? And I don't plan on selling. You can come be my neighbor if you want, but you probably won't want to after this story. It's a zone 4 county, meaning we cannot kill does with guns except for the last 3 days of muzzleloader season, which is actually when we're filming this. In 2012, they got smoked with EHD. That was one of the first big outbreaks. And we've had it since in 19, 22, and I'm assuming this year there were reports, so who knows. After that first really big one, that's when they basically said, hey, no does can get killed during gun season. Well, the pressure fell off a cliff. So in that time frame, we were killing 300 to 500 deer during the season. When that happened, we were started to kill like 100 to 150 deer during the season. We've maintained for the last, I looked just because I've been diving in the research, the last 8 or 9 years, we have never killed more than 30 does in the county, the whole county, 30 does. And we kill somewhere between 150 and 200 bucks a year in the county.
Oh.
So you're talking about 230 at the most deer killed each year for the last decade, basically.
And way more bucks than does.
Way more, because you can't kill any does during gun season.
Yeah.
And if you look at the neighbor counties, it's not astronomical, but neighbor county here will kill 500 or 600. This one will kill 400 or 500. This one will kill 4. So I mean, it's still not a high deer density area, but they're clearly killing more around our county. My initial thinking, as like from a logical biologist, is like, okay, dude, you're killing 30 does a year in the whole county. The population should be exploding.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, the areas, like, not to get ahead of ourselves on this conversation, but the areas that like just have low deer densities, despite like seemingly deer space, perplexes me a bit.
Me too, man.
It's like, is this just one of them? Is it a migration thing, or are they just not ever there because of like and I mean, I'm talking like big picture, like,
Me too.
There just aren't things in this county to sustain quality deer herds over a lifetime. Like, there's a there's a weak point for whatever reason. Like, it doesn't have the.
I'm trying to figure out what it is, and I'm not saying that I can control it or fix it either.
That's what I mean. Can a farm
probably not?
Can you sustain a micro population of deer in a macro area that's not suitable?
Probably not. I mean, if you look at the picture there, it's like, okay, let's break it down. Is there just deer space? Yes, lots of it. Lots of space. Would I say it's quality habitat? Far from it. Okay, so there's a limitation there. If I'm looking at that from a population standpoint, are we killing too many does? The answer is no.
No.
Right? So that immediately is out. What I worry about is, are we not recruiting fawns into the next age class? Because that would be it, right? Even if we have enough does, if they're getting killed by predators, or getting chopped up in hay machines, whatever, right?
Unlikely. It's predominantly timber, right? So
so that's what I'm and where this farm is
predators,
more
of anything.
Yeah, predators. There is some hay stuff, but so that is the barrier. We're not killing too many does. Therefore, I feel like it has to be a fawn recruitment thing. If we looked at the area, we didn't mark a ton of does and fawns, but we did mark substantially more than bucks.
I'm trying to remember, like, can't remember on that farm. Did we feel like we saw many fawns?
Yeah. I mean, more than I thought.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, there's a doe and 2 fawns. So it seemed like, if I had to just assumption, because we didn't break it down, were there, at least one doe for every fawn we saw? Probably.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that the buck to doe ratio is way out of whack?
See, that's what's really interesting. Per the survey, way out of whack. We saw 4 bucks or 5 bucks.
So here's something. I'll throw a theory in there. Is it possible that, like, they can sense that at a herd level and they're like, we don't need any more does because we don't have enough bucks to sustain this? You know what I mean? Like,
what's interesting is, again, because it's a seasonal snapshot, if I go back to like September, I hardly saw any does, but I would see 12 bucks in a food plot or 13 bucks in a food plot. So complete opposite of what we're seeing in this late season, right? Because this was just a week ago.
It was the 18th?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
the 18th?
No,
today's the
13th. 12th.
Yeah.
12th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So a week ago. And so, yeah, it was really odd. Like, I guess that's where all of a sudden I expected to see some of these bucks that I know were in the area. And what's even crazier, this is where it gets habitat, terrain, bucks that I knew made it and had it on camera recently weren't in the 2,700 acres. Like, we're like, Madison, I had this deer last night on camera. Where's he at? And we had perfect conditions.
Which we think more than likely is topography based. Like, they probably were there.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we got to were you saying for your cabin property or for the other?
For the other property.
Yeah. So when we got to the cabin property, I mean, it, similar terrain, maybe a little bit more rugged. But, so on your cabin property, you got a lot of cliffs and stuff, and we can kind of maybe get into that. What we think might have been happening there. I don't know. But there's also some of that on this property, and
especially us around it, like the neighboring properties. There's some sandstone cliff lines and rock shelters.
So we did find some deer bedded in and around those rocks, and there's a lot of overhangs and stuff, and so it's very possible that there were deer using some of that. You also had a giant snowstorm roll through, which is pretty abnormal for that area, especially for the time of year. So part of me was, after post-survey, thinking about it, that could have pushed some deer up into some of that stuff where typically they wouldn't be.
I mean, why wouldn't they lay in a rock shelter where it's just bare, dirt, sand versus laying in the snow? Like,
Yeah,
I would.
And, if you walk through, you always see deer tracks. Even like down in Hocking Hills, we were down there this fall, and it's like,
Yep,
find
you
deer
see
tracks all over the place. Yeah. Yep.
So one of the ones that was, as you narrow down to like individual deers, there's a 6-year-old there that I think survived EHD. So a good case in point of why these work. He and a 4-year-old 8-point that I've seen since I've owned the farm ran together all summer. About mid-August, disappeared. Both of them just vanished. Really weird because they usually both stick around a lot. And about, I would say, a week or two before the survey, the 6-year-old shows back up for the first time. No 4-year-old 8-point, just gone. That 6-year-old looks like dog shit. Not only just from an antler standpoint, from a body standpoint, everything about him just looks, he looks rough.
Yeah.
And so assuming he survived the HD and probably his counterpart didn't, do I have body proof? No. Do I have report proof? Not really. But I knew where this deer was living, and we flew that whole area first time through, nothing. Didn't find him.
Mm-hmm.
Come back through, I don't know, hour later maybe or less, and it's like, oh, wait, there's a deer. There he is just feeding on an oak flat.
Yeah.
Wide open.
Right.
It seemed like he was not in the rock shelter, but he was for sure living in like mountain laurel and rhododendron.
Yeah, I think so. There was snow on the ground, so you can see the beds pretty clearly. And so, I was like, okay, I want to know where this deer was bedded.
Yep.
And so that first time that I flew that knob, Frank didn't realize how much hemlock was right in there. And so I flew through that quicker than we probably should have. Going back over when we found the deer, I started looking, and I'm like, okay, right there's his bed. He was bedded tight up against the hemlock,
up against
the base of it. And so, depending on what angle you fly that, you're going to miss him. So, clearly I just missed that deer that particular round. So, it can definitely happen.
Yeah, and I would assume there were probably, again, not necessarily the bucks that I'm like, hey, where'd these deer go? But the deer that I have had on camera that night or the night before probably did similar things.
Yeah, very easily could have been.
Just how they were bedded.
Have you had those deer back on camera?
Oh, yeah.
Have you? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, they're all there every day.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they were migrating far.
No, they weren't.
Now the deer from, and again, we're late in the season, so some of those deer probably got shot. And to Jared's point, I probably won't know about a lot of them until next summer, right? But I would have to bet that a lot of those deer are moving, like their summer range to fall winter range is substantial. Now, will they come back here in the next 2 to 4 weeks, as we continue into winter and they're like, hey, I remember all that food being there in the summer? We'll find out. I think a couple of them did last year, but I also think that they'll come back sometime in the spring, and then sometime in the summer, I'll be like, well, there he is. Like, he's there. And then he's going to do the same thing. Like, that's the DNA part of the farm we've been talking about of like, I don't necessarily know if I can change that with the farm or to the point of the whole area, right?
I think it's harder in a big woods scenario to do that, simply because I think those deer are just so wired to cover large amounts of ground.
I would agree.
I feel like in farm country, maybe a little bit easier to do that because there's such a limited cover resource. And so if you can give them adequate cover on your property, they're probably more apt to use that in the fall. But
so, like, I mean, going back to your question about like, can one guy, or one property owner or a group of property owners change, the DNA of that county from a low deer numbers? Probably not. I would assume that it will always be lower. It's gotten way better in that area because of the management I'm doing and because we've not killed a single deer on that entire farm in 3.5 years. Some of it because of lack of targeting of like, there's only been really like one buck I've been trying to kill on that spot. And some of it because just like anything, it takes 5 years to grow a 5-year-old buck. Well, this upcoming year, 2026, would be the first year that the deer that I had as a 1-year-old make it to 5, right? So if there's a chance of multiple mature bucks, it's going to be 2026. Sturgis and I talked about habitat and food plots. It's like, okay, well, I've got a pile of beans and a standing corn and some clover here and some alfalfa here. You know, do I try to take some of that summer crop and convert it into early fall, like that October-ish attraction, like rye and early clovers and maybe. I don't know if that's going to stick them, though. I think they still are going to just do the thing that they do, especially when acorns is playing. I mean, we had a massive acorn crop down there this year that really probably threw those deer for a big loop. So I don't know. I mean, the end summary of that was if there was any of the 3 farms that we flew, and unfortunately, that's a long-term farm for me. Like I'm a bit everybody
you can sell it, you know.
I know. Right? You've said it, Jared said it, Skalma said it. It's convenient for the area because of where my cabin is. From a layout side, I don't know if I'll find a better farm for like being able to do food and stuff because it is big timber area and I've got 50 acres of open ground on this top. It needs habitat work from a timber side for sure. And I do have, I mean, that's the thing. It's like if I go back to like all of my summer and September pictures, like there are great bucks there, you know, and as I'm ratcheting them up, again, like I said, this 2026 season will be the first year that these bucks that I've now had influence of reach 5 years old. Like if I look at what's building behind them, like there's awesome deer in the pocket.
What do you think about if you were to just continue to zoom out? I mean, if those deer...
I don't know, man.
If those deer were there and they're not dead, they're somewhere.
I know. Well, and
so how far out do you have to zoom?
That's just it. I mean, I think that's...
great question.
Generally speaking, you think you're going to fly 2,500 acres there within that block. You would think. But then, you know, like that just, I mean...
Of where we're at, for sure.
Right. But, I mean, so that just goes to show you how far they're moving.
Sure.
Yeah.
If they're alive, you know, so I mean,
right.
But you know, come this next year, you're going to know kind of what to do going forward. It's like
what could you learn by zooming out and saying,
some of those
there's
deer
that
are for
deer.
Sure alive.
He's 10 miles away. Here he is.
Yeah.
Found him.
Some of those deer are for sure alive. Like they will show up this year. I mean, again, you don't know everything, but my neighbor there has a very good read. You know, it's a tight community. And so he talks about it in ridges. He's like, hey, this ridge, you know, they killed 4 bucks this year. You know, maybe there's a couple that slip through, but I'm assuming he knows the 4. 2 of those bucks, I'm like, yep, I know those deer 100%. They were on my property. You know, and those aren't, one's an adjacent neighbor, one's one property over. But like not deer that I'm like, oh man, I can't believe he killed that buck. Like I've had that in the past. But historically, if I go back, like the deer that I am like, boy, I hope these deer make it through another year, they do. You know, I don't necessarily see them during the season. I just see them the next year. So
yeah, you go zoom out. They're going somewhere.
Yeah. They're going somewhere.
Yeah.
I think they're just covering big ground. So like we flew that farm first, and it was like we came out of there, and I'm like, ugh, like not what I expected. I've got all this food standing. Like the deer that are there are gonna, sure, man, they're gonna eat well because like there's no competition. There's all this food. There's things that I can work on there, and maybe you know, come August, September next year, I'm like, holy shit, look at all these big bucks. And then they just, I don't know where they go.
You go opening weekend, you go kill one.
You go kill one in September. That's what we just talked about.
How far are we away, do you think, from like, or like, you know, how smart are these drones to be able to like track? I was going to ask you earlier, we would talk about like combing an area. Like, you know, if a Roomba can do it, I feel like a drone can do it. Like, can we just set a thing and like, okay, grid this area?
Yeah.
So that'd be one, you know, from a survey standpoint, but then 2, like how intelligent are they to be able to like identify specific deer? Like you see, you know, trail camera companies attempting to do it, and
no, it's stuff that's being actively worked on currently. So there is the DJI dock, which is something that you could remotely set up on your farm. Not that I'm necessarily advocating for this, but you know, this is a technology that exists, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That you can literally from your, you know, you're sitting at your office at work and you're on your computer, you can hop on there and take the drone up and fly the thing around via your computer remotely and
then dock it.
It'll dock it back and you could do a survey not even being on your farm.
So that would tell me that, you know, probably pretty close to be able to like, from a battery, like recharging standpoint, like
it charges wirelessly.
Oh, so it lands.
Yeah, so it lands, charges itself,
Perfect.
and then you can take back off. Yeah.
So in theory, could you assign it whether you're there or whatever? And obviously, there's like a whole morality side of this discussion here too. But for the purposes of education, like, could you go and find one of these deer that Jeremy's interested in following from August, September, around the time that he feels like they leave, and just assign the drone to that deer, much like a caller survey, but with a drone. Just say, hey, follow this deer for the next week.
In short, possibly. So they're currently working. So the newer drones, the Matrice 4T has some AIs built into the technology, more than what my 30T does. And that has the ability to track, you can basically highlight a bus or a person and it'll follow that. And they're working on recognition of deer.
Okay.
With it, there's a couple problems with that. If it once it has to come back to recharge or swap, refining that. If it has to do that on its own, and if it's moved, say it's during the rut, that could be pretty tough. The other bigger issue is that time of year when he's talking about his deer leaving, it's full leaf out. You're not finding nothing.
Okay.
So you can't see through the
Which is the hard part.
Like
we even talked about, and we might still figure out how to do it like in the evenings. It's like, do we stay for 3 days and fly the fields for 3 days in a row in the, August, September, to see these bucks? Because I would love to know at that point, like if all of a sudden, let's say on a consecutive 3 nights in August, we fly all my bean fields and it's like, holy shit, there's 32 bucks. It's like they're there. Where they go, I don't know. And that really is the key. And man, it's so crazy because we talk about with the cameras all the time. It's like these bucks don't escape. Like everybody knows who they are, where they're at. It's just a weird community in that, like, even myself, I'm like, I'm fine being open with my neighbors, but there's to a point, like, I'm like, I don't know if you really want him to know this or this, right? But at the same time, it's like, you almost have to, especially in this terrain, like, you almost have to have communication with such a broad group of people to be like, hey, man, yeah, I've got this huge 10-point, check it out. And I'm like, how? Like, that's 5 miles from where he should be.
What other methods exist? Like, it is, I mean, I know the answer to this question, but it's illegal to tag them in any way, shape, or form. Yes?
Yes.
Like
hand capture and tag?
What is illegal? How does that read? Like, you know what I mean? Let's just say you wanted to stick an air tag on one. Like, what part of that is illegal? Is it the tracking them? Is it the capturing of them?
It's probably how you get it on them, like shooting them with something, tranquilizing them. At that point, I think you're in the black of illegal. Yeah. Because, honestly, what I would...
In the black is usually a good thing.
Yeah.
You say we're in the red.
Yeah, in the red, okay. Where I would like to be, and again, this is just, I don't really necessarily...
In the black. Yes, do it.
I don't necessarily know the consequences of it besides, like, privacy and people not wanting to know. Like, if I've got to check in my deer, I'd love to submit pictures with them.
That'd be interesting.
Like from a database side. So,
well,
like, if you kill...
Certain states have that. Like, dude, Kansas, that's the first thing you do, take a picture of it laying there before you touch it.
Really?
Yeah, that's if you do the...
remote check-in.
Yeah, whatever the E-tag. If you have a physical tag, then you don't have to do the picture thing. But if all of a sudden states all went E-tag oriented and stuff, you have a database of these pictures. Like, I would say, hey, you got to take one as it lays and then one, I don't know, something of the rack or whatever. But then it's like, well, do you let the public comb that? Like,
say Jeremy's just scroll.
Well, yeah, because I'd be like, okay, if there's, and it obviously easier for me in a Menifee County where there's whatever 180 bucks killed. But I'm just like, okay. I mean,
shouldn't be public. I don't think.
Am I the only one that does Facebook stalking?
No.
That way?
No. You're not.
The other thing, though, I mean, how much good does that really do you if you don't have like location data and the person's name?
Well, see, in Kentucky, I do have the person's name on their telecheck side.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, you're talking about as a you.
Like I can go in as telecheck right now, and I can look at every buck that was killed in that county, and it has everybody's name on it. Doesn't have location data or anything like that. Doesn't even say.
But you could find them.
It just says buck, doe, and with what weapon.
You can see a picture of a deer that they killed.
No pictures, just name of the person that killed it. And the date that they killed it.
That's weird.
It's kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, me
frankly,
too.
that's how I knew which elk were being killed before I went down and hunted.
Yeah.
I went in and looked, and I was hunting Boone Forest Lands, WMA. So I'm like, okay, this person killed on Boone Forest Lands. Looked, I'm like, yep, that's the elk that I had pictures of, or I don't know that one, or whatever. And so I just went through the list just to have an idea of what I was going into.
The profile stalking thing is hilarious.
It's a data information thing. Like,
just this morning, because every once in a while, it's like, it's like, I don't read all of our comments, but every once in a while I'll see one.
Yeah.
I saw one this morning that was like, you guys are the problem, like basically negative towards us. And then I saw a response. Then I see a response to that was somebody else that clicked on their profile and went to saw their bucks, and then basically responded and said, based on the bucks in your profile, you're the problem.
I love that.
And there's this whole, I mean, you can kind of figure out, like where they're coming from based on here's all the pictures that you've posted. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like I said, and I respect everybody's privacy. So, if you don't want me to see what buck you killed, don't post it, basically, is my response. Or make it only viewable for friends, and then don't friend me. But to communication side, I think that those deer exist, they're alive, and they're going somewhere. I won't know until July, August, September what that farm looks like. I'm not discouraged by any means. It kind of maybe just in the back of my head, I'm like, you're not going to see what you think you're going to see, and then there it was, very apparent. On the flip side, the mountain property threw me for 100% loop. I had no idea. What we found was not what I thought we were going to find by any means. First of all, the number of deer that we saw over there, insane compared to what I thought I was going to see at my farm. Like they were inverse essentially.
And I think that's why we assume it could be EHD, as you're 6 miles apart there. I mean, there was 3 times the deer
and what I would consider worse habitat.
Yeah.
Less food for sure, and those 2 main things, and way over the top. I forget, 80 some deer essentially.
Yeah,
is what we
found.
In a
smaller area.
In a much smaller area. The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Rackhub.
Well, dude, sheds are starting to hit the ground.
Yeah, and although we usually don't find many of them, we've done pretty well this season so far.
I would say for just a handful of walks, we've got a pile of sheds to show for it. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, if shed season would end today, I think it was pretty successful.
So this year we're partnering with Rackhub. It's an antler mounting system for your sheds.
Yeah, and obviously people have watched our podcast. We've got this massive pile of sheds that are on the table at all times, but you guys took the time to set up Wide Boy's shed on the R1, which is a really cool way to now have that thing right off to my left-hand side during the podcast.
So some of these sheds just call for a little bit more appreciation, I guess. So rather than being on a pile on the table, we're going to mount them on the wall, and they look awesome. So
yeah. And so if anybody wants to try Rackhub, you can use the code HUNTR10, HUNTR10 at rackhub.com to get 10% off your order.
Use Rackhub to make the most of your shed season. It would be so interesting to see, if you could see like a migration type map, like in that area. Like there's definitely some shifting happening. Like
has to be.
Yeah. But where and why? Like why is that area sustaining a higher population?
And if you ask me on camera, so here's the thing. Most of those deer that we saw around the cabin property, the mountain property, were does and fawns. And if you ask me on camera, I'm like, I mean, I see some, but not a lot. What I do see is there were 5 bucks over 4.5 year old that were made it through gun season actively on camera. Frankly, I had them on camera the night before. We didn't find any of them, not a single one of them. And
that pissed me off. Not gonna lie.
He was. we drained the batteries. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
We could not. We found a freaking black bear. We found bobcats. Yeah.
Yep.
We found coyotes.
Any mountain lions?
No.
Are there any in that area?
I asked him to. Yeah. That would have been sweet.
No.
When I think cliffs, I think mountain lions.
But none of those bucks. So we're like, all right, no, again, per what we saw on the other farm, maybe they just travel for. What was it? An hour after dark, the first 6-year-old shows up at a feeder. An hour later, the first 5-year-old shows up to feed. They were there.
Oh yeah,
they were
right there.
absolutely right there.
Yep.
I think that's where in that area they're living under these cliff lines and rock shelters.
You could find that out pretty easily, Madison. I mean, you could go back down and find one at night, whatever, and just follow it back.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing to me there is that it was the mature deer.
It was. We found 2- and 3-year-old bucks.
Yep. And so, to me, it's like,
and we found the does and
that for sure. They're identifiable.
Well, I mean, 3 plus.
We saw plenty of.
But were there does that you're,
We saw a pile.
That were using it? Yeah, possibly, I guess.
We saw what seemed like all of the does and fawns very visible.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the 1, 2, and 3-year-old bucks we found.
Well, but what I'm saying is we think. Because, like, how would you know? You're like, we didn't find that one doe.
Well, that's the other side of it. It's like, okay, if we didn't find those 5 bucks, which one of the 5, I don't know where he is. I haven't seen him very consistent. But the other 4, they were in that zone, I would assume. How many, did we miss a lot of does and fawns? Or is it just behavior of those bucks doing that?
Yeah.
Because also, if it is like, oh, you also missed a bunch of does and fawns, I don't know how we're sustaining that many deer in that area. Because it's trash habitat. It's just big woods.
I would assume it's not. I mean, it would be my opinion. I might be wrong on that.
Like
but,
behavioral bedding.
But I think it's more of a behavioral thing of these older deer.
Have you seen that on other surveys? Are there deer that they think are there that you're not seeing?
Generally, no, and that's what irks me. Like on my recovery side of things, like I was 95% like of finding the deer.
You said you would find deer that they didn't know existed. Like,
oh yeah, all the time.
Well, that's more likely, I think.
And we were not finding the deer we knew existed.
Yeah. I mean, I was perplexed, to be honest. And we sort of had the theory at some point that they might be using some of that stuff.
Because I sift under there for arrowheads and I see tracks and also to the snow, right? We had that we had 4 or 5 inches of snow come in, which is not common down there. That's the dry place, right? Like, why wouldn't they be
and
there?
So, I turned on my regular camera and just tried to scan that cliff line. But, a lot of that stuff is
gnarly.
You can't get low enough to look in is the problem. And, who knows? To me, there just weren't enough hemlocks and other things like that they could hide in. Like, I don't know. Like, that's the only thing that made sense to me. And the thermal conditions were perfect.
Perfect, yeah.
I bet you could learn a lot by that. I'm always intrigued by.
I told Jeremy, I'm like, dude, if they're living in caves now, we're screwed.
And I think that it was like that evening. I'm like, well,
they might.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, you see them go into structures,
I was
like barns and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, like to kick them out of a barn in the summer is not a big deal.
Well, dude, if you would walk under these,
somebody that shot one out of one.
No way.
Weston Schrank.
He's sounds familiar.
Like a marketing guy for Trophy Line.
Yeah.
He shot one in Kentucky out of a barn.
Yeah.
There was a bachelor group embedded in
like
there.
An old tobacco barn.
Like a big one.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you walk these big sandstone cliff rock shelters, like where we sift for arrowheads, makes complete sense. I'm like, it's completely dry under here. That's why you sift under there. Is like no moisture has got into that soil in centuries because of the way that it sets up. So yeah, I mean, it would make complete sense that they utilize them that way. I would absolutely bet that at least those 2 bucks, one's a 6-year-old and one was a 5-year-old, were bedded under a rock shelter.
You didn't go up then at all that weekend to kind of look around?
No, I shot a coyote and I ended up tracking that thing in the snow and it was just messy. So,
is there enough to?
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, like, would there be a way to? Yeah, you don't even know what I'm asking.
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, definitely. Would there be a way to like find that out? Like, are there very specific areas that you're like, I could run a camera on these or even hunt them or something? Or is it like, well, they're everywhere? It could be anything.
Well, I mean, going into it, my fear on this property, and that, there's 2 different ones here, but the main one that I have 75 acres is like the back wall is like a coliseum, right? It's like there is no impasse. It's like this saddle in this way around. Like they're
I had a hard time frankly believing you, and then I saw it. I'm like, yeah, no, that's it. This is the only place they can get.
They can't get through anywhere.
Like for sure though. I mean, you've seen some of the banks and stuff.
No. Like a person can't get up this stuff.
Like it's a rock. It goes backwards, like up over your head. That's why it's a rock shelter.
Boy, if there's a way though, like they know where it's at.
Sure, but I don't think there is, and therefore, like I was like, well, it would make sense that they're not betting on me because they don't have anywhere to escape to. Like if they got in a jam, they're cornered, like corner dog type of thing.
What if there was an actual like third world portal that they like what if you could follow them
Hollow Earth.
and they actually walk into a rock like rock 3/4 like Harry Potter?
Just watched Godzilla the other day again and I was like,
yeah, straight in the upside down on Stranger Things. But that said, I think that they absolutely would bed there. It just seems weird because now I'm like, boy, you took away a really big escape route for them. Do they feel comfortable being able to just go X and Y if they get pressured? Maybe. I would assume that both of those bucks were bedded one of those probably was for sure bedded just off the property, probably on the public side.
I was going to say, I think, looking at the wind and everything, I would have, I say that, I don't know. All those, like the main group of bucks that we found, they were not, like they were facing the wind, right? They weren't on the leeward side.
Well, they were facing the wind, and they were in like a 5 to 7 year old clear cut right on the edges there.
Because I was going to say, I would assume those bucks were on the back side of the main ridge.
And those were all
there,
1, 2, and 3 year olds.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. And again,
it would be interesting if you could go through and take some time and like try to find some of the ones that look like they have the most sign and hang some cameras.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that all 5 of them were there because it wasn't like boom, 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 but 2 of them for sure would have been within the surveyed area. A third one likely because I saw him later that night. But yeah, it's just it's it really is when you kind of look into it. Again, if there was a shock, the shock was, okay, we didn't see the bucks that I know are here. That doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. And then we saw way more does and fawns than I would have ever thought. I mean, again, because of the county regulations, we haven't killed a doe on that property since I've owned it, and I bought it in 2019. So you're talking about the 6th season here that we have not killed a doe on that property, and it kind of looked like it, based on. But I'm doing that because I'm like, boy, my sightings aren't like. It's not like I sit and see 7 does. If I see a deer during a hunt, I'm like, this is a pretty good hunt. I saw some deer. Mm-hmm. So it's really weird to see that. And again, it's a snapshot, so maybe it was a snow oriented or who knows.
That's a pretty common thread though with what I'm seeing with most landowners. I think generally speaking, there's more does. I mean, not always, but most people.
More does than they think.
Yeah, there's just no way to really know. I had on my...
they're not unique.
I owned a little 15-acre piece, and it's like, had a little clover plot. And every time you hunted it, you always seen does, but it's like, I mean, I don't know if it's the same group of 5 that I'm seeing. Who knows? And I like take it up, and there's 23 does and 2 bucks. Like on a couple 100 acres. I'm like, oh, okay, we can shoot some does.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we saw here. It's like I don't necessarily know if I will this year, but I for sure could, and I don't think it will affect things. It definitely opens my eyes to when I'm seeing, like on my camera, I'm like, okay, here's a group of does and fawns, here's a group of does and fawns. The next day, here's a group of does, and I'm like, oh, that's the same one. Maybe not, because there were a lot of them out on the landscape. And in classic survey format, like if you can't, like to your point, it's not like that mature doe or this mature doe or whatever. So you utilize the bucks to scale it, right? So effectively, if I say, hey, there's 6 unique bucks here, right? For every doe I see, there's 6 of them. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's in theory how a camera survey, when we do a camera survey, works. If I know there's 6,
gotcha. If
I know there's 6 unique bucks, for every doe I see, there's also 6 unique does, assuming 50-50 ratio. And you use the unique bucks to divide into the total number of does in pictures you see to come out with your doe number and therefore your buck to doe ratio. So if you think about that on your own property and you're like, okay, well, for this mountain property, we did that survey and we're like, man, look at all these. Now behavior's different and how these deer, that's why you assume it's similar when you put corn piles out, that does are going to approach the corn pile and bucks at the same frequency, which is an assumption. But if I look at that and I'm like, okay, well, if let's say there were 5 bucks that I did not see, I wouldn't say in a thermal survey, then there's 5 times the does that we didn't see.
No.
I think that's purely a behavioral observation of we didn't see these bucks because of where they were bedding and how they were bedding. The does just are bedding in more visible areas.
And the reason I feel confident on that, whenever I'm doing, recoveries or the mature bucks, they are just different animals. They are bedded by themselves, completely away from the other deer, typically speaking. The rut would be obviously a little bit different, but they're very isolated and just overall different behavior.
It makes me wonder on it makes me want to have you come out, honestly, Dar. Because we see a lot of those, and to contrast to like what Jeremy's seeing, it's like it would not surprise me if the per square mile or per is challenging to put together because we're more fragmented.
Got so much open ground
where we're at for sure. But dude, we see a lot of does. I mean,
to be honest though, I guess I didn't fly a huge area because it was both times with the exact same block basically that I was flying, but didn't feel like the numbers were like out of control there. Maybe they're worse than, and that was,
I agree. Well, when we flew it, I agree. We didn't see nearly as many as we have now. So maybe that is just how many are yarded up right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, between...
Agree,
So basically, where we sat, where the blind's at,
mm-hmm.
sat there the first night, saw, let's say,
You're saying
30
where
deer.
you moved it there at the...
Yep, next to the bean field.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the next night, I sat 400 or 500 yards straight to the east. So remember that back little food plot, and I had to fly that ditch around there?
Yep.
Hunted on the eastern side of that. And I probably saw... I bet you I saw at least 20 deer over there that I'm assuming at least a portion of them are different deer. Not all of them, because in fact, I was just telling you earlier that buck, I watched him, and so I pieced together his whole thing. So let's say 50% of them were unique, So I saw in that half of the farm there, which is, I don't know.
How big is that section there? Of timber.
I mean, if you include the field, it's a lot bigger.
Yeah, but just
timber.
the timber. Couple hundred acres?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's fragmented because it's ditches and stuff. And there's 100% there's deer I didn't see.
Yeah. So to say there's 50 to 60 deer in that couple hundred acres. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Yeah, that's probably right, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I think that sounds reasonable from what I saw, yeah.
And it doesn't mean that, like, if you...
And I didn't see any of those bucks. I didn't see any of the 4 or 5 or 6-year-old bucks.
Like, we did...
And they're in there.
1,500 acres, I think, at the cabin is what we ended up surveying. 1,400 or 1,500. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so.
And we saw, 80 plus deer, which for that habitat is high, I would say. Way higher than I thought it was going to be. And we didn't see... 4 or 5 of the bucks that we expected to see. So there's probably 90 deer in that area that we didn't see. That's a way higher population than I expected. Now, whether it was herded up, it was a snapshot in time. Like, there's all these things to go into it. But yeah, I mean, if it was surprising, I'm like, boy, a lot more deer over here, and obviously I just acquired a piece of property that I can do some food plots and some open areas and stuff, which is encouraging to see what that can do over there. And so, maybe, and that I will say, and again, it's a snapshot in time, so I don't know, through most of the summer into, I'd say, early October, there aren't deer really on that, and it's typical big timber. Like, they're waiting for acorns to fall. There's some resident deer, but, like, I don't really see any of my shooter bucks until October 1st, give or take. And then from there through the time they shed, they're there. So it's kind of like, all right, now do I embrace the farm in September for hunting? And then know, like, hey, October, that's going to go down the shitter. Now you shift over to the mountain property because from October through till they shed, I have a shot at them.
I mean, that's a fairly decent best case scenario, having 2 farms that are the opposite there.
From a DNA standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you still work on them to both try to be full season farms, but yeah, I mean, it just, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like they will.
I think what I wonder, I mean, on your farm, is that one, like the dispersion there, are the deer, like, I'm assuming there's not one, like, 200-acre section where all those bucks go. Like,
well, that's what we thought.
Really
we're like,
spreading.
we're going to come up on them, and they're going to...
Yeah.
Never
did. I think it's just, you have that one deer on your ridge there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would assume that, there's one way over there, there's one way over there. They just sort of just spread out.
And honestly, it's a weakness from trying to get them to older age classes, right? Because, like, the more they spread out, the more people have access to them to hunt them and to shoot them versus, like, that mountain ground. Like, some of those deer, the one, actually 2 of them, 2 of the bucks that I think are 6+, like, skipped years. There were years that I didn't have pictures of them, and I'm like, he's dead. And then he shows back up, and I'm like, how's that even freaking possible?
Dude, the 9 point in Illinois is particularly like perplexing to me. It's like you just really wonder what these, like, how an environmental change can dictate, like, what a deer will do in its given range or outside of it. Like,
yeah. Well, and even just from like, some of these deer, I think, just are survivors. That old buck in Ohio, that deer goes into a damn hole. Like, because there is substantial hunting pressure around, and every year he survives.
That's what they're doing. Like, we've seen enough of that now, and I think you've seen it with, like, you're seeing DeerGro with the drone that guys aren't getting on camera. Like, they figure something out.
They know it.
At a certain point. It's probably different for all of them, but it's like they figure out how to survive.
And they just make it. Like, that deer in Ohio, November 15th last year, he was always a homebody, gone. Never saw him the rest of the season. And I told Kevin, I was like, he's dead. It sucks. Like, I wish we would have shot him, but he's dead. Like, he just, and October 2nd or 3rd this year, there he is. I'm like, holy shit.
Dude, that 9 point in Illinois, he's alive.
Same way. I know.
Guarantee it. He was like, he never left our farm, Madison, for the past 2 years as a, 4-year-old and a 5. He's 6 this year?
No, 3 and 4. He's 5 this year, I think. No. You're right. He's 6.
4 and 5, never left. He was on us all the time. Lots of encounters, just never caught up with him. He was one of the ones. This year it was on us
a lot.
Yeah, through October for the most part, and then watched him go west to the new 80 that we picked up, and then
never came back.
Gone. He's gone. He's gone. Haven't seen him since.
I had a deer.
He's not dead. I guarantee he's not dead.
Down on my farm a couple years back in 21. We guessed him probably 5.
Mm-hmm.
This deer covered a lot of ground. I had a couple close encounters with him, and my neighbor Joe was also hunting the same deer and had some close encounters with him. And in 20, but like as the season progressed, he shifted more and more my way. In 22, I get my first picture of that deer. He just shed out. He was still red in the antlers. And I had that deer on me solid, like every day until he got shot by the neighbor, like the opposite direction of my neighbor that I'm talking about. And my neighbor Joe that was hunting that deer last year or the year prior to that, like, didn't get a single picture of that deer. He would have thought that deer, he just died, And no, he was just living right across the road.
Just shifted.
I mean, I'm talking quarter mile, just right there.
I think they do it more. I mean, in theory, does it matter if they're dead or not? Not really, because they're dead to you, basically, in that. But I do think that they are alive more often than we think, and then just get shot somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Versus like we're watching them, they got shot, they didn't show back up. I think there's a lot more shifting happening. And they live, and eventually they get shot or they die.
Well,
but not in the moment of like you lost them.
Yeah, even where I'm at, a lot more tillable. But still, overall, way more woods than what you would have.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen any? Do you have any thoughts on just cell cameras, like correlation of bucks moving in and around? So, do you think it influences like where deer will live or not, or? Like a black and white would be. Do you see deer leaving properties that get loaded up with cell cameras into areas that don't, or living predominantly just in areas that don't have cameras?
Yeah, I wouldn't have enough data to know that, like to be able to give you a really good answer on that. I don't know.
Okay.
I've seen. So I hunting that same deer actually in 2022. Where I was hunting and was down on the bottom, and it was like way on the back end of the property, and I made so much noise hunting him every time I go back there. It was like, finally, I'm just gonna sleep on the ground by my tree. Mm. So I hung up a hammock, and I'm laying there, and it's...
This is this year?
No, this is 22.
Okay.
And there was enough moonlight that I could see really well.
Mm-hmm.
And that sucker, I'm 90% sure it's probably him. He walks in, and there's like this very tight pinch. On the back of my camera is like, such thick brush you would never think of even trying to walk through that stuff. And that buck comes down the pipe right where he's supposed to, would have walked right around the camera. It would have taken 5 steps to go around the camera to come up the main road, and he cut the corner right behind the camera.
Mm.
And this is the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
guard
what
should
the
be
heck?
down.
And what's crazy to me about that is the directional awareness. Like they can't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
They can't know which way the camera is facing.
But,
to a point,
it's also...
there's infrared throwing, like they see that red glow, and they don't
Maybe
see
they
that.
do.
I also think there's, they pick up, hey, if I walk on this side of the tree, I hear a noise. If I walk on this side, I don't. I don't know.
Yeah. It's wild, man. I don't know. Like it again, that's the cool thing about the like thermal drones and in combination with everything that we're talking about here. But it's like, the more that you try to understand these things, probably the more questions that end up getting brought up, because you're just like, well, he's going to do this. And then you look and he's like, he didn't do that. Or he's here. No, he's not. And then he shows up and you're like, where the hell did he come from? That's what's cool about keeping it a mystery, and even with all the technology that's out there, it's like you still don't know everything. But yeah, and even with the thermal survey side, it's like it's a snapshot in time. Like obviously a high fence is a different story, but for properties like look at that farm in Kentucky, it's like pretty barren right now. if we could see through the canopy come August or September, I think it would tell a whole different story. Maybe not. Maybe it did get smoked with EHD, and next August, September, I'm like, shit, like they're dead. But my guess is it'll take its form and it'll embrace its DNA as a early season farm, and then it'll go to shit after that. That definitely, I can't say that I'll make those changes this year, but if I see that happen again next year, then it really comes down to, well, I'm not even worried about standing grain in the late season.
Right.
Then there's shit. They're not there. That's not benefiting me at all. I need to focus hard on what's early season. Green beans, alfalfa and clover, maybe some rye, water holes, like all of the things that early season are going to have massive dividends, because once I get past October, like, farm's dead. They're just not there.
Yep. I think you're better off leaning into that than try to fight it.
Yeah, and I mean, not saying don't do habitat cover and try to do more cuts and things that would benefit, like maybe they will stick. Because at some point, do these early deer start to be like, well, why am I leaving? Because now they're experiencing it their entire lives.
I think that was one of the questions that I had was, you have that one mature deer sticking there. Does that over the next 10 years, maybe it takes forever, but, over the next 10 years, if you're consistently having food there, does that slowly evolve? I don't know.
You would think so.
But even your farm, I mean, you would have said a couple years ago that's strictly an early season farm, right? I mean,
for sure.
That's changed.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be, you feel like habitat, hunting pressure, leaving grain? What's changed?
All the above.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's taken 7-8 years, in an evolution there. And again,
the grain, I think, is the biggest part of that.
We won't know until next year, maybe even the year after, but it's like the last 2 years, you guys have had control of all of your uncle's stuff around. So pressure has changed. Yeah. This year, you didn't. So how's that affect next year? How's that affect the following year? Like, those are the things that, you gotta be willing to change based on what's happening around you that you don't control.
So funny question. Was that the deer were leaving or they were getting shot? There just weren't deer for late season. They were leaving. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of them did show back up in the next summer, and it's like, oh, there he is.
Yeah, and like what I felt like was they were transitioning into farm, like areas with more bigger contiguous timber.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And I still do think that, like, it's interesting to compare like our property to Jed's, who is not far away. Like, dude, they shot, and they just have a lot more mature bucks than we do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
less acreage, but more contiguous timber.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's one.
And he doesn't have any of them in the summer.
That's one thing that I've picked up on is, like, if you can be close to that core large chunk of timber or in that, even if it's a 50, you're better off than being, Don talks about his isolated, piece, and I agree that can probably work to a degree, but when I feel like
there should be no timber anywhere for that to work.
Yeah.
And even
I think
that's
there's not anywhere in Ohio other than potentially pockets in far western Ohio that you could do that. But the other thing too, what we came back to, there's so few mature bucks,
right,
that you just need many. Like, and that's another thing that I've like found, because I hear a lot of guys talking about you want lower densities to find some of these bigger deer because they're have more nutrition, all these different things, and I and other guys are finding these big deer in really high density areas.
Really?
And the reason for that, I think, is simply
just a numbers odds game.
Shot. Yeah,
it's an odds game. That's how I look at it.
Most of them are probably 4-year-old 170s, but it's like Ohio has the genetics to do that. And so it's that 1 3-year-old that somehow makes it through.
I would say we're evidence of that. I mean, dude, we have some.
Yeah, you had a 190-inch 4-year-old this year.
Yeah.
And
he's they're not all that.
He's an outlier, but that's purely a numbers game. It's like you had a bunch of 3-year-olds that were really good. A lot of them got shot. The ones that got through were big.
Yeah, and I don't think it's optimal. Like, I think a buck could get bigger in an area with lower deer density. I just don't think they make it to maturity because, like, dude, Ohio hunters are so freaking effective. Like,
they have all the tools.
They just kill freaking deer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
That's why
they wound a lot of deer.
Well, that's why I think in some of those areas, and you can look at it half glass full either way, is like in southern Ohio, barring we just had EHD, I think you saw high deer populations and you saw big deer because there's just a ton of deer habitat for them to cover. They just move and they cover ground and they have space, whereas like where you're at, it's like 5 acres here, 20 acres here, 10 acres there. Like when they're moving block to block, dude, they are vulnerable as hell. in those situations versus like,
Yep.
you know, those deer, who knows where that 4.5-year-old giant came from, you know, 3 days after we did the survey. He may have walked 1.5 miles,
Oh, yeah.
but it's like under the cover of a lot of different habitat. Like he probably wasn't that vulnerable at that time.
And not just that, but terrain. You know,
Yeah,
where you're
absolutely.
at, you have little ditches and stuff, but it's not large, contiguous stuff where they can be down in this stuff where people can't see them.
It's also harder to hunt. Like hunters are lazy, dude. They don't want to walk up hillsides to get to the top of a ridge and then go down another ditch and come up on this other hillside. No,
Well, even where I'm hunting tonight, you know, it's more of that big woods stuff. I mean, there's some, you know, pasture ground, some hay, whatever, but like I've got multiple deer that are, you know, 5, but they're just these little 120-inch 8-pointers, you know, typical. So
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Mountain Tough.
Man, as everybody knows, physical fitness is super important to both you and I, Jared. And so whether it's training for the Badlands so that we can pack out a muley or our weekly whitetail hunts, the thing that we don't want is to be a big piece of shit in the woods this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, dude, even just in our daily lives, whether we're planting food plots, running our businesses, spending time with our family, we just want to feel good. And that all starts with physical fitness.
Yep. So this year we're partnering with the Mountain Tough app, cool new app that you can go in. You can do rucking, you can do weighted vests, you can do minimal gear. But basically the app has both coached and self-guided courses, anything and everything you need to be mentally and physically tough for this hunting season.
And so right now you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, on the Mountain Tough website. That's mtntough.com. It does have to be the website. It can't be either of the app stores to get that discount applied. You get a free 2-week trial anyway, so anybody can go on and use that. But while you're signing up, use that code HUNTR. You'll get an additional free month after that trial period to use the app. That's a total of 6 weeks. That's a huge savings.
So this season, get Mountain Tough. Yeah, it's interesting. I would say that the one thing that will maybe wrap it up, but continue the chapter is like the mountain deer, though they are getting age, I don't see them, they're not growing bigger antlers. Like those are the deer that from 3 to 5, there isn't a ton of growth happening there. Those farm deer, the ones that I have been able to track, minus that 6-year-old went downhill, but even from 3 to 5, that deer added 50 inches probably. So like I am seeing them be able to put the inches on the farm side, probably because of the food and things that they have.
Yeah.
Versus like they're getting age in the mountain, but they're not putting on 50 inches. They're putting 20.
Yeah.
Between
There'll
3
probably
and 5.
always be an outlier though, because
Sure.
it's like, I mean,
I have them.
some of the areas that I would have hunted like Belmont and Monroe County.
Yep.
Trash in my opinion, sorry. But you know, there was always 1-200 that popped up somewhere out of there that like didn't make sense. But
Out of all
it can
the
happen.
130-inch 5-year-old 8 points.
Yep.
Yeah. So there definitely are outliers. I've had them there. I've had a 2-year-old that was probably mid-40s, you know, on that mountain ground. I'm like, where's that gene at?
You can have like, there's like micro differences too. Like there's a farm in Illinois that some friends of ours own that are like, it just seems like they can't get over like 150. You know,
and they get mature deer, and
there's
they're
a
not
lot
far.
a lot of mature deer. They just feel like
a different
low
animal.
scoring swamp donkeys. Like they just run WRP ground, and then where we're at, like a mile and a half away, it just feels like farm ground, CRP in a bigger country, and like they're bigger.
Yeah,
it just seems like they're just seems like they for some reason have they're just different deer.
Yeah, and like your point, there's outliers for sure. It's just. Yeah, you just I say that because there's more and more people that I talk to. I'm like, you know, don't just think like passing him at 5, he's going to be exponentially bigger at 6, or passing him at 4, he's going to be exponential, because some of them don't. Like, good, get them to maturity, but don't necessarily expect them to blow up like what we would see in farm country. Like we're like, oh, that 3-year-old, that's a 60s deer at 4, and he'll do it.
Yeah.
That 3-year-old in mountain ground might be 120, and he's 128. You know, the next year. It just
you see that a lot.
That's just what they do. They're going to always prioritize to body than antlers.
I would say overall, like the biggest thing that I've seen in Ohio doing this, I mean, I've flown the last multiple years, each year, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of acres doing recoveries. And it is depressing, the lack of big deer.
We're just getting worse, huh?
I mean, it's bad. I don't know that I've seen it. I don't think I've seen a single deer, whether it was hit or not hit, over 170. I mean, I'm talking thousands and thousands of acres. Now,
interesting.
You know, I mean, this year I flew a lot. Carroll, Columbia, like over towards your direction. Last year was down a lot more. Noble, Washington, Southern Ohio, which would make more sense.
But not necessarily because lack of genes as much as like they're just not getting old. Like you're just seeing a lot of young deer.
Doing a lot of recoveries for 125-inch 3-year-olds.
Yeah. See, that's interesting. Just contrast that with like it's a very small sample size, but I dropped my hides off with Trav the other day, and I always just like take a pull. I'm like, hey, what are you seeing? You know, and it like there's a lot of 3 and 4 year old high scoring deer is what I see there. You know what I mean? Like good, like strong genetic potential.
Yeah.
Not very many older deer.
Right.
You know, which is probably common. I mean, I don't have like
I assume that's just because there's not many left on the landscape.
Yeah.
Between EHD and slamming 3 and 4 year olds, like there just aren't going to be 5 and 6 year olds around. And if they are, like the more 3 and 4 year old giants we kill, the worse quality 5 and 6 year old bucks we're going to see.
Yeah.
I flew one property in Licking County and there was a 170 there. So
there you go. Everybody's like, buy in Licking County.
Yeah.
And $20,000 an acre. Yeah.
I'd love to know. I personally, and I know we got to wrap up here. I would love to see some coordination between, and we're going to talk to. I don't think Clint's not been officially elected or whatever. Assigned
he is.
To that
he
position.
is the Ohio DNR deer biologist. He's the only one. So whether that has a senior or seniority title, I don't think it matters right now. It should matter. He should have it. But
well, so
he's the guy.
We'll be talking to one of those guys later. But I'd love to see in all states a coordination between like drones seem to be the most effective technology.
Why not, man?
For monitoring herds and population statistics.
I talked to my game warden down in Morgan there, and because when I called about that salvage tag, and I said, hey man, we're more than happy to help. I mean, we would love to be able to, if you guys need some resources on being able to, because I mean, in my opinion, it's a big enough problem down there. It's like having some accurate numbers in some areas would probably help, but
I don't think they want you to know accurate numbers in a lot of areas is the problem. The moment the veil is lifted, there is no, well, you say that, but it's really this. When the veil's lifted, it's like, that's what's there.
What kind of a data like pool exists? Like if you were to try to source private survey data, like how cohesive of a map could you put together, do you think, in certain areas?
Very. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess
would that be hard? Like
how big of an area?
I would do an extrapolation, right? Like
no, I would look at real maps. Like how
for what?
For like survey data. So like I don't know. Is there a database of everybody that does drone surveys?
I see what you're saying.
Oh, like that?
Like could you?
No, there's not.
No, could you go to this list and say, hey, okay, here's 20 guys in this area that have done drone surveys. Let's all sync together and put our.
Because that's like saying, like, and I mean, I don't care, but like most guys are not going to want their herd survey data to their neighbor. Like they want their neighbors to know what they got.
Well, it's a couple things because first. You don't just pull up on a random road and just start flying properties. And then second, it's like,
that gets dicey.
The other thing with that as well is, frankly, record keeping on the pilot side of things.
Sure.
Like, I mean,
it's not perfect.
I mean, I try to keep pretty good records of everything and keep my KML files and all that. I don't know if other people are doing that. I have no idea.
Right.
Yeah, and even just trust factor and, seeing like quality of pilot, flying, identifying it as a deer, zooming in, identifying it as buck, doe, etc.
But as far as possibility, I mean, we did a 5,000 acre survey, and that was high fence, and so way more deer in that than what you would have in the wild. And we did that in 5 hours with 4 guys, and so you could go into an area and have far better sampling than what was currently being used.
Exists.
Yeah. I just think it's a number that's not necessarily, they don't necessarily want you to know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you could do it. Again, there's no air restrictions legally.
Well, again, it's not even the number so much as it is like the quality. That's where the lap seems to be. I mean, especially in Ohio, like there seems to be no regard for the quality or age class. It's purely numbers.
There isn't.
Right.
There isn't. They just care about age class.
Yep.
Yeah,
numbers, not age class.
Yeah, right. Which is, you'd think that, drones would be able to help, I guess, see into that a little bit more. I don't know. It just seems like the technology is there, and it's going to only continue to improve, especially with like the automation. Like, and at a certain point, that's how do you say no to that? It's like, hey, listen.
Well, and that's But we'll talk. We'll talk to Clint about it today.
Even from the security side of things, as a remote landowner, say you've got you know, 1,000-acre farm, Southern High, you live in PA, you got one of those docks, you can quick fly your property lines of gun season if you're not hunting it, and there's a dude there, quick call the warden, and you know, I mean, that's
dude. And I'm not saying like that I want it to get to this point, but like in theory, it's feasible to think that like the state or an independent organization could employ a fleet of drones. Again, I'm not saying I want it to get here, but that AI technology to be able to uniquely identify a deer and use a Roomba combing thing, you could just set a fleet of drones into a county and say, go find out how many deer are in Licking County.
Oh yeah,
and it'll tell you.
That would be.
That's not far away.
Sure. No,
I mean,
I don't think they'll do it. Yeah,
it's also a large area.
Yeah, but what's the problem?
I think you'll see. I think you'll see a congressional push of like, you know, privacy, just like trail cameras. That's why they're getting banned across some of these public areas is privacy. So it'll be the same there. At some point, there will be some sort of law, right, that says, hey, you can't fly over private land. Like the boundaries exist straight up. You need permission or written permission, just like you do.
Frankly, I mean, I'm not against that.
Me either.
I did a recovery for guy in gun season, and it wasn't optimal timing. Probably looking back, probably should have waited 15 minutes. But, you know, I got there, I happened to be in the area, swung by, and it's, you know, right as it gets getting dark where, you know, it's after legal, but guys are getting out of the woods. And, you know, you're up there flying. There's like freaking guys everywhere, which on the side note, there was more pressure on that little corner of woods than there would be on public. But, you know, the privacy there, it's like, it's just not.
I don't want a drone watching me walk
I brought
in.
the drone back and took it down. I was like, this is just dumb. So we went back later that night then, and
that's ethics, which is lacking across a lot of stuff. So, you know, without barriers, I'm not calling for more regulation, but without the barriers there, like it becomes, you know, self-regulating, and that's not a good thing.
No, because I've heard way too many stories of guys.
Has there been any movement on that, like in Ohio, anyways?
That I don't know. I mean, I haven't. I was told they're updating the regulations for this 26th season. I don't know, but I don't know what that's going to look like. Because I feel like the way it's stated now, in my opinion, is way too loose. Way too loose. Yeah.
So. All right.
Cool.
Yep.
Very good.
Okay, dude. Well, appreciate it. If anybody wants Madison to come fly their property, you know how to get a hold of him on his website or write us, and we'll get you in touch with him as well.
Not Instagram.
Not Instagram.
Yeah, not Instagram. As long as you don't have cliffs on your property, I'll find out your deer.
That still gives me hope that there's like a mysterious buck out there I don't know exists. So, but anyways, it was cool. You know, people bitch because we didn't show property maps and stuff. I don't know. If you really want to see it, just write me and maybe I'll show it to you. But it is cool to go through. I've loaded them all now into Google Earth, and Emily and the kids and I were going through, and it's cool just to see like, wow. There are a lot of deer on the landscape in some of these areas. So, but anyways, we appreciate you guys hanging with us and talking with Madison about thermal drone surveys and everything else that goes with it. And we will catch you on the next one.
Later.
Take me